And we're live. Vincent Bruno is back again. He's been away for a bit. I think you had a few problems with something or other. Do you want to tell us what's been happening with you, Vincent?
Yeah, I got suspended from YouTube permanently because I got three accounts. Um
Are
I
you
got
not allowed to have three accounts?
no, I got three strikes on my account and within 6 months. So one was for hate speech. It was a video I did where I was countering Dr. Brown's arguments in his book where he wrote against me. And I got a hate speech one for that. I don't know what that was for because I didn't say anything hateful. And then my second one, I got okay, it was a very weird strike. I was playing Hindu like songs that I like, and it said that it was like scam material. There's you can get your video taken down for being a scam, like a scam material. I don't know why I got flagged for scam
Oh,
on
so I was thinking might have been a copyright claim. You know, if
it
you're
wasn't a
playing.
copyright, it said scam. It didn't say
Ah,
copyright claim.
right.
And then the third one, I don't know what it was for because now I can't get into my account and it's just all black and I don't even know what I did wrong, but I did something wrong.
How terrible! They should explain to you. Don't they write to you? They email you telling you what you've done wrong. Sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the email.
Yeah, because once I got an email from them saying you know you were naughty, and then I realised that this was actually personalised because they actually listened to it. It wasn't just you know they decided. I mean, it was quite detailed. They told me, you know, at such and such a point in the video, you said this, and therefore it's hate speech or something like that. But you know, other times they, you know, it's all obviously automated.
Yeah, no, mine were automated. So, I don't know if I'm gonna start a new channel or not. I guess I am.
Well, I think you should because you are well known enough, right? Unless there's some rule saying that you can't if you've had your account deleted. But sometimes they let you. It's like, well, you just lost all your stuff, but you can start again if you want.
Right.
And you might as well, is what I'm saying, simply because, well, YouTube is the biggest platform, unless you want to go, you know, to Odyssey or the other little ones. But what would be the point? You'd get, you know, fewer, less engagement.
Well, I do have another channel. If I was gonna start, it's Vincent Bruno. How do you wait? Is there any way to find me specifically on here? Is there like, hold on. Oh, I see. No, this channel's thing is too long. I am in there, Vincent Bruno. If you type, let's see, if you type in Vincent Bruno Noah Hyde, you might get my new account.
Okay, I'll do a YouTube search for you then.
Hold on. Yeah, you'll get my new account on. Yeah, if you type in Vincent Bruno Noah Hyde, you'll see my new account. It just says Vincent Bruno is it's my new account. So that'll come up.
Okay.
And I'm gonna start streaming from there again, I guess. And so yeah, if you want to find me, go look there, and then yeah, I'll
It's
start.
got 441 subscribers, right? That one?
Yeah, 441 subscribers. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it in the chat so people know where to find you. And oh,
So that'll.
great. Well, it's not too bad. You've got 441 subscribers already.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, it's a little bit discouraging to me, that I lost all that content and everything like that. And
But the thing is, you know your spiel. You can you can reproduce it effortlessly, and maybe people don't they don't go back to old stuff anyway unless there was something particularly good, and whatever was particularly good, you should I mean, you should be able to remember it and produce it and reproduce it at will. Hopefully, if you have a good enough memory.
I could. I mean, some of the stuff I'm a little bit tired of talking about. I'm not tired of. I mean, I'm not as on fire to talk about it. I don't think I'll ever totally get tired of talking about Noahide law. But if you noticed, I kind of stopped talking about it for about the past 20 videos that I had done.
Mm-hmm.
I had my problem is that I don't fit neatly into anyone's political zone. So I have many different things that I'm passionate about, and they don't all fit together into a neat, typical package. And so I'm always going to lose people, because if I just stay on one topic and don't talk about anything else, like I was doing with Noahide, it was easier to keep people. But then, when you start talking about other things like eugenics and like
Yeah, but
sexual revolution.
it's more, shall we say, well, less potentially popular because you were promoting suicide, which was gonna, get you into trouble with YouTube because there's a law against that, and then you're going to be promoting incest, which people feel dodgy about, and then you're also promoting your non-traditional families, which will only have a very limited appeal at this stage. So the no hide laws is your bestseller because you can run and run, and it's an old thing, and people will have heard about it, and it's still politically relevant. So no hide laws would be the way to go if you want to keep the punters in, keep the punters coming. And then while they're interested, you can slip in your other things, I guess. That would be
Yeah,
my
I mean,
suggested strategy.
yeah, I could do these things.
Because
It's
people
just that I
do.
feel very passionate. I feel very passionate about many things. I mean, it's like, okay, it just keeps happening over and over again. Like when I first got involved, so I started out big time in anti-Islam is where I really started, even though I don't talk. I talked about anti-Islam as much as I talked about anti-Noahide for years. That was my big thing for a long
Well,
time,
wait,
was
can't you do that because that's still current and people want to hear that?
well, yeah, but again, I'm bored of anti-Islam. I mean, I'm tired of. I did it for so many years, for so long, and but the problem was that I was doing it, but okay, the counter jihad movement in America is run very much by Jews. They're very prominent in it, and they have made it so that if you're anti-Islam, they want you to be pro-Israel and pro-Jewish. And I hid my opinions about Jews for a while.
It must have been painful.
I hid my opinion about Jews, but then I just couldn't hide it anymore, and I became well known for my counter jihad stuff. I had a group that I moved in, and I was known, and people knew who I was. But then I came out with the Jewish stuff, and then I lost everyone, right? Um, And then when I became anti-Noahide, I got known by all that. But then when I got into the more sexual stuff, I lost a lot of people, because it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, okay, like, with the eugenics stuff that I'm into eugenics, but I'm into sexual liberation and sexual openness at the same time. And most people don't equate those two things together and put those two things together. They usually equate eugenics with social conservatism, right? And sexual conservatism. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to get people on board if you're too diverse like that, if
Well,
you're
because it's
mixing.
contradictory, which is why they think, you don't know what you're talking about. Because the whole point of people who promote eugenics is basically the state saying, we don't want these degenerates, these disabled people and whatever. We want our youth to be, wholesome and strong and, so that's why they promote eugenics as they thought it was.
Right, but they promote it through social conservatism. They don't promote it. They don't, if
Well,
you're not.
Hitler actually didn't because there was a kind of like the I think his elite troops were rewarded with the sexual services of women whom they weren't married to, Lebensborn or something like that.
Yes,
So they think they can kind of cheat, but in the end it blows up in their faces.
yes, um they had that Lebensborn program where women who were unwed mothers could go, um, and have children. And I believe that they would even find the best SS men to sire the fathers. I believe they did that. Um, so yes, they were getting creative, and that's what I'm interested in, is something more creative. There was the guy, was it Lebensfeld? I think it was Lebensfeld. Um, there was an occultist that preceded Hitler, and I think his name was Lebensfeld, and he actually had was going to be a Catholic priest, and then he was thrown out for supposed homosexuality. At least that's what they think it was, because he was thrown out for carnal lust, and that was a euphemism for homosexuality at that time. Why he was thrown out. And then he started promoting eugenics to rebreed the Aryan race. And he said that the way it would have to be done was there would have to be colonies where women would be kept, and where they would be impregnated there. And this would be like kind of like systematic breeding, like I've been talking about. And
Yeah, because I was thinking, that's where you got your idea from.
I didn't know that he had the same ideas, but he did, and he promoted them, and so I think that's where they got these ideas from. But yeah, the thing is that if you want to do this rapidly, you're going to have to do it in an organized fashion.
Mm.
I don't think sitting around and waiting for traditional monogamous love marriage to correct things is going to be going fast enough. Um, I
Well,
think that
most
we
people
need,
don't want to marry now or have children, and the government doesn't care if they're like that. It seems that the
well,
government
yeah,
doesn't care if there are fewer of us to govern.
yeah, no, it's true. People are not having children. And so, um, if you want to, rebreed the race, you're going to have to do something a lot more intensive than just waiting for people to get married and have children. I don't think that that's going to work.
You just
And that's
change the
what.
laws. I mean, for me, I would, the best way of making people want to marry again is to criminalize people who have extramarital sex and treat them as sex offenders, and then they'll soon change, their behavior.
Yeah, well, that's your way, whereas my way, I said I want to increase the birth rate, right? So that's why I suggest polygamy. I think that if there were more people involved, it would be easier to raise children. It would be less expensive. You could do it wholesale or whole scale production
But
like
the
that.
children will be lower quality. They might be sexually abused, physically abused, because they don't have a father to look after them, and the mother
They
sort of.
do. They do. They might have multiple fathers to look
Yeah, but
after
you
them.
don't care about other people's kids. They're just annoying. Most people don't care about other people's kids. Some of them don't even care about their own kid.
I know, but these are people who have entered a polygamous union.
Yeah, but maybe they did it to, get a room in a home or something. And they
Yeah,
thought,
but
well, I
I
have
mean,
nothing
there's
but my
these
body
type
to
of
sell, so
abuses
I'll
go
just sell
on
my
in.
body and my cleaning services. I mean, and maybe get to live here for a bit. I don't know.
I know, but these things happen in monogamous systems as well.
Yeah, but at least the contract is clearer. Like at least they both know who the kid is supposed to belong to. That the kid is a biological, copy of them. But but I mean the terrible thing is that a lot of parents don't care about their own flesh and blood. So the
No, they
people who,
don't.
that the children are not related to are going to be abused even more.
Well, we look, something new. I mean, okay, you're saying just make everyone sex offenders who has sex outside of marriage and then everyone will get married. That doesn't necessarily mean in this day and age that they're going to have children because we have birth control.
Well,
So,
even birth control can be regulated. So if I were the state and I thought, oh, too many children being born, so I'll say, well, we'll have your children, and you will be penalised if you have more than a stated number of children. But if I want more children to be born, I would say no pill for you until you have completed your family, and I say that you will be deemed to have completed your family only when you have had 3 children, 4 children, 5 children, whatever. You see, so that's how I do it. So it's quite easy. People understand. And,
yeah,
and, and
well,
the
I
only
mean,
okay, and the
okay, but
only
people are
women who
gonna,
can have the pill would be registered prostitutes working in licensed brothels. So
but people are going to rebel against this, Claire.
well, they don't rebel that much, really. I mean, they seem to be submitting to lockdown and vaccines and crap like that.
Well,
Yeah,
they
they might
rebel.
complain, but
They
they're
already
just
rebelled.
basically ignored.
The sexual revolution and the birth control revolution was a rebellion against monogamous marriage.
Yes, and that has produced rather uncomfortable results. So maybe people are just about ready for change.
Um,
Wouldn't you say?
that they're ready for change. I
Yeah,
don't
I mean, listen
think.
to the white nationalists. They're going on about but the white babies and and we can't get married and even it's like it's this sort of existential preoccupation by Western man about what the hell's happening.
1 second, Claire. What? I have to eat while I'm talking to her. I'm not gonna. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Um.
Sorry, did I offend
Yeah.
your husband?
No, no, no. Yes, no. I understand that this is what they want, but white nationalists don't make up the vast majority of the population. And I think that if you went to Gen Z, um, if you went to Gen Z and you talked to them about your plan to make them all sex offenders, I don't think that you would get a very warm welcome. And
Oh,
Who
I
is
wouldn't
going
say they were going. Obviously, I'm not going to, say everybody's going to be lashed 100 times. Obviously, it can't be retrospective in that, they're going to say, well, we didn't know it was going to be illegal, and I said, fine, of course we didn't know, but people who do it after this period of grace is over, so let's say I come into power tomorrow, then anybody who becomes unmarried parents say a year or maybe 9 months after I come to power. For example, well, after secular Koranism is adopted, maybe not even me, will get punished. But anyone who like, oops, I got pregnant yesterday. Do you expect me to abort my kid? I'll marry my, spouse, whatever. Then they can, they'll be all right. So there will be no punishment, is what I'm saying, and. So really, for me, the people who would most object to me will be the people who don't want to become married parents.
Yeah, which is a lot of them.
So you've already got what you wanted. That's my point, Vincent.
I know, no, but
You're just
I
saying,
want them to be, no, I want to increase the birth rate without any kind of government control going on here. I want it to come from within the population, uh not like the government coming in and saying you have to have more children or less children or you can't use birth control or anything like that. I'd rather do it in a way that this is done on the personal, excuse me,
but
on
it
the
will be
personal.
disorganized the way you're proposing to do it. Because, there is this danger of the children being, abused and suffering
The
mental
children
health
are abused in
issues.
monogamous relationships as well.
Yeah, but they're less likely to be because the whole point of marriage
I
is
don't
that
think so. I
it's
don't think you have any data on that monogamous families are more likely to or less likely to abuse their children than polygamous
yeah,
families.
yeah. I mean, you look at the prison statistics, you'll find that most convicted prisoners are, come from, you know, fatherless homes.
No, I'm talking about a polygamous home. I'm not talking about a
Well,
fatherless
that's
home.
that's too unusual for for them to show up in the crime statistics. But
I
I guess if
know, but there's no way for you to make that assertion that they're more likely to be abused in a polygamous family than.
well, I would say they are because adults tend not to care that much about kids who aren't theirs, and there's so many sort of sex mad people that they're more likely to want to sexually abuse children because it's so common now. Pedo Catholic priests and you do hear about it more now.
Yeah, you hear about it more now, but also, I mean, monogamists have children to abuse them too.
Yes, it's possible that I'm not denying that they're all going, that some of them will be criminal, but we're just talking about the statistical probability of something happening. I'm not saying all unmarried parents are bad and all married parents are good, but we're talking about statistical probability.
Um, so you're saying because there's more parents in the home, it's more likely the child will be abused.
Well, more adults who are not related to it, who don't care about it.
Well, what about there's more adults to like watch over and make sure nothing like that happens?
Adults will only look after children if they're paid to look after it, okay, and even then they might not look after it properly because we know about bad babysitters. They might care about, the kid of their sister or brother or, whatever, but they're not gonna, just want to look after somebody else's kid out of the goodness of their hearts.
Well, what if they have their own children inside the polygamous marriage and like they're taking care of their children? It's like they take care of each other's children to help each other out.
Yeah, they might do that, like, I mean, mothers might occasionally, do each other's babysitting, but they have to first like each other and trust each other to be on that kind of, relationship.
Well, they wouldn't be in the same household if they didn't like and trust each other.
Well, exactly, but that a lot of people who are forced to live together don't necessarily get along. even people who are properly married to each other, or who are siblings, or so there will be a lot of domestic tensions anyway, even in proper traditional families, and it will be even worse in my view if you have these non-traditional families who have no established rules of behavior.
Well, there would be established rules of behavior.
Well, it's like we don't know. I mean, if it's um, a free love situation, it's like, well, thanks for letting me, share your home with you, Vincent and Vincent's husband. Can I bring the occasional man, back from, wherever I might meet them? Or, how about if I bring a woman back every now and then? Oh, can she stay over? Can I bring two of them? There'll be a lot of tensions if we're all going to be sexually active, and then you're going to have kids, and you might not feel comfortable about the kind of people I bring back, right? I mean, it's just an imaginary scenario, and already people are just going to, oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Well, some people do like the sound of it, Claire, because they would only allow certain people into their home. And I think that they would be very careful about who they would let in, so they're not worried about the scenarios that you're talking about.
Yeah, but if people are sexually active, then well, at any time they could meet somebody that they really really like, and then they
Yeah,
might
well,
want to bring them home.
they wouldn't they wouldn't be they wouldn't be barred from seeing that person.
Yeah, what they have to introduce them, like bring them home for dinner first, and and
So
it's
what's so
going to
wrong
be
with that?
awkward.
What's so wrong with bringing someone home for dinner?
Well, that's fine, except that some people don't even get round to doing that, or don't see why they should, or whatever. Um, I'm saying all these rules, somehow have to be covered for non-traditional families, and non-traditional families will have a greater variety of sticking points and potential problems because there are no established rules of behavior.
There are established rules of behavior. You just don't like them. Like the established rules of behavior is like, yes, you are allowed to have sex outside the marriage, and yes, if you want to bring someone home, you're allowed to. I mean, you have to be careful. You can't just be having anyone over. I mean, yeah, there might be established if you have children in the house, it might be like, well, this you can only bring them over if you vetted them. Don't bring them home straight from the bar. You have to kind of make sure that they're okay before you bring them around the children. I mean, there can be established rules like that. And
Yeah,
monogamists bring home people from the bar all the time.
yeah, but the thing is, they are supposed to take responsibility, and they're not. What do they? Do monogamous couples bring strangers from the bar home all the time? I don't think so, Vincent. If they're properly monogamous.
Well, I mean, well, people who only want one, maybe they're not married, but they want only one lover.
Well, they're
God,
married, but they say you can have one lover and I can have one lover too.
no, that they were married and had their children, and now they just want to be in a different monogamous union.
Well, I don't know anybody like that, and I don't think you do either, Vincent. I mean, that is a problem. You create these sort of imaginary scenarios of it working, and and you think ordinary flat share situations is it's already problematic, isn't it? So really, people who share flats with other people actually don't want to do that. I mean, they only
Well,
put up with
okay.
it because they have to.
I'm not promoting this for the whole population. I'm kind of promoting this only for certain people. I know the vast majority of the population doesn't have the maturity to be polygamous. I
Do you
mean,
know anybody with the maturity to do this sort of thing, Vincent? I don't
well,
think you
I
do.
know people that I know polygamists, yes, And
Well, you should bring them on the show so we can have a good talk about the problems of polygamy, the day to day. I guess it has to be some kind of American sitcom before people will start accepting that it is normal and
well,
desirable to live. Well, maybe you should write a screenplay. That,
well, I haven't thought of doing that myself, but I have thought about, yes, a reality TV show about polygamy.
that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, because they're doing these drama documentaries all the time. So you can present the show. If you can find these people who are prepared to let you into their lives and not let you ask questions and you know.
Well, I can promote the idea of a reality show.
Have you ever heard of Wife Swap?
A show called Wife Swap?
Yes. So
No.
basically, these two couples living in separate homes, and they basically choose the ones that are most likely to not like each other, and the
Yeah.
wife goes to the other man, and his wife goes to the other husband, and then
Yeah,
they do a documentary based on how they interact with each other. Have you heard of that?
yeah. There's something in America called like trading spouses.
Yeah, yeah. So that would be my idea, and I guess some kind of variation could be done for your polygamous households if you can find any prepared to participate in it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that would be good. I'm not in the TV industry. I don't think I'm going to do it myself personally, but I would like to see it.
Hmm.
I would like to see it. Um, Look. Mm, okay. Hold on one second. I'm just getting something to drink. 1 second. This is the way I see it. That I think that there is. I read that whether you want to have sex with people who are familiar to you or who are strangers to you may have something to do with your genetics. They think that it might have something to do with the amount of Neanderthal DNA that you have in your the amount of Neanderthal DNA that you have.
What? Uh, what do you mean about sleeping with strangers?
Mm-hmm. Whether you want to sleep with people who are known to you or want to sleep with strangers, they believe has to do with your DNA, and it has to do with how much Neanderthal DNA you have in you.
Well, doesn't it depend on how attractive they are?
No, like some people they want to have sex with someone that they know, and some people like to have sex with strangers.
Right. Well, what do you prefer?
But I prefer both, but I do need new sex partners often. Um, I do like seeing someone regularly, but I do need strange sex often, yes.
But I mean, there might be people around you that but haven't had sex with, but might quite want to have sex with them. So that would be a different kind of situation, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, I do crave sex with strangers. I mean, I still do, and I probably
But
now
that's
that
a
I'm
gay
getting
thing, though, isn't it?
no,
It's
there's
a
plenty of gay
gay
people.
thing.
No, there's plenty of gay people that are not into um
Sex with strangers.
yeah, there's plenty of gay people that are not into sex with strangers, and
Well, I mean, it's great that men can just say, well, gay men that don't say, oh, well, yes, I love to have sex with strangers. But I think for women, I mean, that even if they did like that, they would be a little shy of saying that, even if that's what they wanted. Do you
Yeah,
think?
well, maybe because there's the stigma, right? If you're a woman and you do it, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the stigma that,
But
you're off. If you're a woman and you're having random sex, then you're off.
yeah, but, I mean, the presumption is that the nymphomaniacs or mentally ill.
Yes. So they're less likely to admit it, even if it's what they really want. But if it is genetic, then bringing people together who are into free love to collectively raise their children um, would pass this on into their progeny, but also socially because the progeny would be noticing um, or would be viewing this lifestyle, and so they would come to just see it as normal. I mean,
Well, but
even if
that would be terrible, wouldn't it, Vincent? I mean, come on, you're saying you want these people who have no desire to commit to their partner
no, it's
to do,
commitment. It's a relationship. It's just more than one person in it.
yeah, there would be one adult, the other adult who is the other parent of your children. That's all you need, because another person introduced would into the relation would have no blood ties to your kid and will not regard your kid with the same affection that they you have, and you know and they might
Well, you
abuse
could say
it.
that about any one of your friends that you leave your child with. If they're babysitting the child, they don't have the same level of affection as you do. Or if you leave them with an aunt or an uncle or something like that, they're not going to have the same level of affection. It doesn't mean that they're not going to help take care of the child or be there for you. I mean,
Well, we
you know,
don't know. I mean, it depends on the individual and how their individual characteristics of whether they're able to look after the kid or not. So I guess for a woman, you would be more likely to ask your girlfriend of the same age who also has a kid than to ask somebody who's never had a kid and doesn't want to do the job. So it all
yeah, but
depends.
they wouldn't be in the polygamous marriage then. They just wouldn't be there.
Well, people don't enter polygamous marriages in order to look after other people's kids or think they're going to be better parents. I mean, you want to promote this thing because you want to increase the birth rate of the next generation, using unorthodox ways, and you think there might be a nice shortcut for you to achieve your aim, but I think it will just produce very damaged, sexually abused children.
Look, this is what I tell people all the time. Heterosexual monogamy has bred a terrible race so far. They have not been able to get it together enough to practice eugenics the way
But
they
it's
are
not
doing.
eugenics, it's an opposite of eugenics. It will be
Well,
degenerate.
eugenics is just selecting the best to breed. As long as you're selecting the best to breed, then you're practicing eugenics, monogamy,
How
or
do you know
polygamy.
if you've practiced successful eugenics? It's only when your society, your nation, your
Well, like I
civilization
told you, not everyone is going to be
prospers.
doing. I'm talking about like polygamous cults that want to work together to breed a new race and to kind of create a different society within a society and to kind of use our polygamous connections to rise to the top of society and gain political and social control, but in a democracy, not like uh going in and forcing people to do things, but in a democratic way, like the Jews or the gays do, where, they're a small group, but they wield a lot of control. That's what I'm
Yeah,
looking
but
for. I'm not.
but okay, you want to compare Jews to gay people. It's like Jews are so rigid if they're following their own rules properly that they are the ultimate social conservatives. I mean, there are laws against masturbating for men. The spilling of seed is considered a holocaust. So, it's the other extreme. And I think the reason why they have become so powerful and distinctive is because they choose to exercise moral restraint, as they would call it. And you want the opposite thing. So I think, things are going to go the other way where you are concerned. Because their way is like, it's the most efficient way of keeping our group in existence. Obviously, we have to marry, and so no gay sex allowed, and no masturbation, because you might think, oh, if I just masturbate, then I wouldn't want to marry anybody anyway, so that's not allowed. You can see all the reasonings behind their prohibitions. And all their
That
kind of
people
little
keep
festivals,
rebelling
they're
against.
impossible to do
You're
it
look,
as a single person.
your type of people have never produced a stable society that is not in constant rebellion and that doesn't need constant pressure to keep it in place.
Sure.
You've never done that. You've never created a lasting society that didn't rebel
Well,
against you.
neither have you. It's like, well, you have Sodom, you had Sodom and Gomorrah and was destroyed by God.
Right. Okay, but it didn't have an internal rebellion. It wasn't in constant internal rebellion. It was, someone else came in and destroyed them, but it wasn't themselves who did it.
Well, the thing is, if you become weak and degenerate, you're just going to, well, fall victim to any stupid idea going, and you'll destroy yourselves in that way. You'll be
Yeah,
cheated,
I
you'll
know,
be
but
invaded,
but
you'll be exploited and abused.
we haven't tried what I'm saying to do. And as I've already said, I'm not promoting this for everyone, but we haven't tried it. We've tried it your way, and it doesn't work.
Well, I think all declining civilizations kind of do try it your way in the end. Because they relax the rules on sexual morality. They think, oh, it doesn't matter if the kid's a bastard. Who cares anyway? It's such a lovely kid. And then, then everybody starts doing it, and then they become the majority, and people are just too terrified to even, say, well, maybe marriage is something that, our government should support. And this is exactly where we are now.
Yeah, but people don't want to get married,
Yeah,
Claire.
yeah, I know, but that is a problem. You won't be able to keep your society in existence because you're saying it doesn't matter that we get older. It doesn't matter that the stupidest people are in charge who don't know what they're doing. It doesn't matter. So what will happen is that your country will have an aging society, and it won't be able to keep the young people under control, and young men, as we all know, will basically do whatever women want because they want to have sex with women, and these women are not the most moral or intellectual people, and they will get these men to commit atrocities, and then your society will destroy itself, and I think that's how it always happens. Because
Well,
other
look,
countries seeing your weakness will just invade and come and take your stuff and your women, which is kind of
yeah,
what's
but
happening now anyway.
there's never been a situation where they tried to mix sexual liberation with eugenics and fecundity.
They've been talking
Um,
about it since the last century. Eugenics, free love. It was discussed in Victorian times. It was discussed in
I know,
Victorian
but
times.
it went out of fashion because eugenics went out of
Yeah,
fashion.
because of the First and Second World Wars. But it was popular in America, and in America, I knew there was a kind of blood test that engaged couples had to do before they were allowed to marry each other, right?
I know, but okay, the free love eugenics movement did not last long enough to have a lasting impact on society.
Yeah, because something interrupted, and okay, you're saying, oh, this thing that we hadn't factored in interrupted. But I think from all previous civilizations, like, oh yeah, the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans. We know the kind of sex lives they had because it's all painted on their vases and still recorded in their literature. And
Well,
what they did was they practice pederasty. So, it's these, adult men having sex with, well, children. Prepubescent males, or maybe just, okay. Yeah, they're, with boys. So that was a practice, because it was like, well, they couldn't have sex with women because anybody respectable wouldn't allow their women to be, in the company of these horny men. And okay, these men might want to have sex with women, but then they'd have to go to brothels and they'd have to pay. But there was a kind of arrangement where they would have, some younger male that they're supposed to be, showing the ways of manhood and all that. And that was, how the Greeks and Romans, got their rocks off, before
Well,
singles
they
bars.
lasted for a long time. I mean, maybe no civilization can last forever, but they lasted for a long time, and maybe they weren't so miserable and internally rebellious as the Islamic world is, or the Christian world was, and maybe they didn't need to sit there with a bully stick and hit people into doing the right thing. I
It's the
think,
same all over the world. I mean, Vincent, this idea of yin and yang, it's a Chinese idea. It's an ancient Chinese idea. And really, I think it's about, this balancing of power between men and women. Because women would kind of think, well, we're always the ones who suffer unwanted pregnancy. So we want standards of sexual morality to be relaxed. And when they do, the men, sort of think they benefit temporarily, and then, their civilization crashes and burns, the crime rate goes up, and then they get invaded, and, or nobody will listen to anyone, which is kind of what we have now. Because nobody can be trusted, because they have no morals.
which is why I'm trying to bring marriage back into the. Okay, I'm trying to bring marriage and childbearing back into the system that now practices free love.
Yeah, but you won't get people who will commit to each other, because they're already allowed to have sex with other people. So
But there's people who do commit to each other, and it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. Um,
but why are you so concerned about the birth rate?
because why are you so concerned about the birth rate?
Well, because I know white people are concerned about the birth rate. And obviously I see it as, logical that if you want, any group to remain in existence, the current generation have to have babies and replace themselves, for
I
when
know, but
they.
I have the same concern about the birth rate as you do.
I think it's because you don't want to marry a woman and have children, so you feel you have to make up for it in another way. Which is why you have these wild schemes, because you want to make your own contribution, and you think, well, this way might work. But I think it will be very high maintenance, and
It's very high maintenance to maintain a forced monogamous society. That's a lot of maintenance, a lot. More maintenance than a polygamous relationship.
yeah, because the laws have to be very strict and it has to be observed. But at least the easy to enforce. It's like, are you married to him? Woman? No. Well, you're not allowed to have sex with him, and if you do, we're going to call you a slut. So it's like, yeah, it's easy to understand. Otherwise, it'll be, oh yes, I am married to him, but I'm also married to this other one, and I'm also married to this female, who's also my, then it gets really confusing, and nothing will be enforced. So you need to keep it simple. You need to keep it simple, so people don't get confused. And when they get confused, and bad things happen because of their confusion, they'll just get angry and violent, and then they'll rebel, and then you'll have your problem of violent revolution. And that probably explains why marriage is so popular, because it's easy to understand and it works. But
Well,
obviously, there'll be lots of social and economic factors. I mean, wars still happen, but maybe they. Well, I don't know. I mean, what you're trying to do is very experimental, and it's not
Yeah.
even supposed to be for most people. So even if it succeeds in a limited way, it won't make that much of an effect anyway.
Well, no, I'm looking to just change the culture. You need a nexus of people to change a culture, right? So, I'm trying to. This is for people who believe in eugenics and want to bring it to the forefront of society. And in order to do that, we need a close knit group of people. And I think that, um,
A close knit group of people would need a moral system to make them stay together. I mean, that's what you need, rules that are actually followed and actually enforced, and you've just said you don't want to force people, you just want people to drift in and out of relationship and households whenever they feel like. So I just don't see how it's going to work.
okay, but well, traditional marriage, when, okay, well, Claire, your way, you're going to have to come in and have a civil war in order to get what you want.
Well, I think I have an easier job of explaining how things would be better if people once again organize themselves in these family groups, because it does make sense, and they also know that they don't like it, because it's annoying putting up with people in your group who are really annoying, whom you don't like, and supposed to like just because they're related to you. But that was how societies were more, well, countries or civilizations or empires were better run. And now we know that the West is declining. You can't get anyone to do anything. Anything you want done is like herding cats. They can't even think straight. So that's why it's declining, and that's why people, Westerners, fear Jews and fear Muslims, because they're better organized, because their rules makes them support marriage and practice marriage, and that's why they appear to be doing better than you.
Yeah, well, yeah,
And you're
but
trying to make them like you.
they also live in like a low barbaric state, Muslims. They're not very scientifically advanced. They're not advanced anyway. I mean, your way, things survive, but everyone lives in shit.
Well, I think they're perfectly good Muslim countries. You will find that a lot of Muslims are trained engineers and therefore more attractive to women because they're marriageable and have an income that is, in theory, capable of supporting a family. So, Muslim men have higher marriage value for women who want to be mothers of legitimate children. And this was something I discussed a few days ago about, in the UK, which group most most quickly converted to Islam. And it was the white working class women who realised that if they wanted to become married mothers, they can't look to that for men of their own race, because those men wouldn't marry them. So they had to look to a Muslim, and the Muslim would think, oh, a white woman, I can marry a white woman, great. Because the race of these women would be a kind of benefit for these brown men, and so there would be a bargain, for both sides. There was something that the other had that that was wanted by the other party.
Yeah, well, the women need an alternative, and I don't really know just how happy those women are to be in Islam now.
But
And
maybe nobody cares about how happy these women are, as long as children are being produced to keep the race going.
yeah, but if you have an unhappy population, you're gonna have a lot of problems.
Yeah, the unhappy population acts out by being a high crime society. So and it's already been established that the the higher the percentage of married parents, the lower the crime rate, and the lower the percentage of married parents, the higher the crime rate. I mean, Jamaica has an illegitimacy rate of 86%, and people just get murdered horribly. Particularly white people who go there think it's a wonderful place, and they'll just get murdered in their own homes and whatever. So. And they're really mean to gay people in Jamaica, forcing them to live in sewers and stuff. I think I did hear about that. So um,
Well, look, I can say this, that things like, well, this was tried. Did you ever hear of Mazdakism?
what's that?
Mazdakism.
Never heard of it.
Mazdakism was, I think it was a Zoroastrian movement, and his name was Mazda or Mazdak or something like that. And he promoted that everyone practiced free love, and you didn't know who the father was, but everyone raised the children collectively, and they didn't die from internal collapse. They died out because the people around them invaded them and attacked them. So it seemed to be going for them. It's about mentality. It's about the way you look at these things. And certain people are attracted to this and certain people aren't. But I believe that those of us who are attracted to it would be able to do it. And it would be such a benefit that we would rise in society and have a disproportionate amount of influence.
Well, it'd be quite interesting to put you on different islands or something and just see how things go after a few generations. I mean, I think the polygamous island will be kind of chaotic and maybe extinct. I mean, what do you think, really?
Well, like I don't. Well, if well, I've been thinking about. I think you do need monogamy in society, but not for the reason that. Or let me think about this. Depends on what kind of polygamy you're talking about. If you're talking about one man impregnates many women, that would reduce the diversity of your gene pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that has, if it's done properly, can have a positive effect because it makes the people more genetically related, but it makes them more socially related since they all came from the same family under one father. And I think it makes it easier for them to work together. I mean, I've spoken about breeding races of human or subtypes of humans through polygamy and incest. But I think that you would need a monogamous class who breed monogamously in order to maintain genetic diversity and to create types of people that could never be created through selective breeding, because this just random type of coming together of genes that have not been siphoned and honed and brought together artificially in such a way as to produce a certain kind of human. I think that there is something to random breeding that could never be um, replicated through selective breeding. So I don't believe that everyone should be monogamous, but I do believe that the polygamous class should use their connections and money and wealth and power and interrelated relationships and the numbers of children that they can have in order to gain a disproportionate amount of society.
Mm-hmm. What about artificial insemination? Do you have a view on that?
No, I think it's, of course, if I'm gay, I'm going to artificially inseminate, aren't I?
Right. I mean, I would ban it. and say, anybody who doesn't sexually reproduce through normal vaginal intercourse, just shouldn't be allowed. If you can't face having sex with a member of the opposite sex who is your spouse in order to get a kid, then well, you forget it.
Yes, well, I don't think that you're very futuristic, Claire. I think that you're very traditional. And I think that the future is futurism, not tradition. I think that we've moved past these things and we need to think about doing something else.
Okay, but we I think the Westerners have to acknowledge that the West is declining and maybe ask themselves why it's happening. They're not the people that
It's
they were.
happening because it was based on a bad system to begin with, because it was based on something that people are going to rebel against.
Well, all laws. I mean, okay, you've heard the expression "rules are made to be broken," haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just means that, obviously people want to do this thing, and then somebody had the idea that there ought to be a law against parking outside, somebody's entrance. There ought to be a law against,
I
people
know, but
murdering other people. So
people don't rebel
rules are
against
made to be
traffic.
broken.
People don't rebel against traffic laws. People rebel against social laws that constrain them and don't allow them to be themselves.
Yeah, and people
That's,
want to have sex with lots of people that they're not technically allowed to have sex with.
yeah, so a lot of people are going to be rebelling against this. And in the modern day, right now, you said if I came to power in 9 months, nobody would be allowed to have sex outside of marriage. Good luck with that. You're going to have a very strong army and a very strong police force to enforce that.
Yeah, but you will get the people to police each other. You see, because people will, want to assert status over each other. So if they see, somebody else doing the wrong thing, and they'll say, well, naughty, naughty, you shouldn't have
Well,
done
they do
that.
that now when it doesn't
Yeah,
work.
well, it sort of does because it shames people.
I know, but people obviously don't care because everybody's having sex outside of marriage.
Well, only because no, the government hasn't decided to, pursue this point. But they could say, well, the reason why the world is so bad is because of you lot, the ones of you who have children without marriage certificates, and then you don't bring them up properly, and that's why they're so stupid and they can't do anything, and they're criminals and blah blah. I mean, they could easily do that, easily. I mean, people are so suggestible anyway. And actually, it's true. It's obviously true that if you have children and you don't bring them up properly because you don't care about them and you don't care if they get run over or sexually abused by somebody that they know from school or in your neighborhood, it's going to damage them. And then you have to put, all what do you need, yeah. Then you have to bring them up properly. You have to look after them and ask them how they are and take an interest in what they do. And yeah, it's a pain. Particularly if you don't love them. And a lot of people can't even do that for their own children. And you expect some random adult who's sharing your home to look after your children? I don't think so.
Not all the time. They're not always going to be looking after your children.
Yeah, but the thing is, people don't even look after themselves. I mean, can they even be made to do the chores that they're supposed to be doing, like take the rubbish out or whatever it is that people who share the same accommodation are supposed to do. They're always complaining. Oh, you didn't take the rubbish out. You didn't. You didn't do the washing up. You didn't. And you're going to introduce children into it.
Everything that you're saying applies to monogamous families as well.
Yeah, and it's already bad enough, but at least there would be a hierarchy um, of leadership. So I know it doesn't really always work in practice, but actually, the father's supposed to be in charge, right? So the child can say, "Can I do this, mummy?" And mummy says no, and then he goes to dad, and dad says yes, or it could be the other way around. So so that's why it's important to have these sort of definite hierarchies. Otherwise, they just don't know, who to go to. They don't know who is in charge, and then they'll just end up behaving like cattle, really, if they don't know who's in charge. I mean, the way we are behaving in charge now, because we don't know who's in charge. We just know that we don't want to get punished. We don't want to get fined. We don't want to, we don't want people to say mean things about us. And really, a lot of unhappiness is not knowing who is in charge and why they are in charge. And this whole idea of belief in God is that, well, he's the ultimate supreme authority, and he knows everything, and he'll sort everything out. Maybe not now, but later. And whether it's true or not, a lot of people derive a great deal of comfort from this, because it satisfies their spiritual need, that good will be rewarded and evil punished. And I think we all want it to be true. And we can move closer to it if we follow the laws.
There's a limit to how close people want to get to that, Claire, because society, it gets there, but it takes a lot of control, a lot of force, and then the people rebel. Look what's happening in the Muslim world. People are becoming atheist. They want nothing to do with Islam anymore.
Well, because they're being encouraged by their media and their government to behave like this, because Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia is liberalizing, and people, people in the other Gulf states, get the message that they're being encouraged to do this sort of thing. And that there are short-term advantages, because Jews go to Dubai to go on their shopping trips or whatever, and yes, there are sex and shopping temporary advantages, but I think we have to assume that these rules were kept by people for a long time, for quite basic reasons of keeping their country safe from invasion. Because okay, well, what we're talking about, you're saying, you have yourself, Vincent, expressed concern that they're maybe not enough babies, and you want to find your ways of a way of making more babies, and the reason to have a constant supply of babies is that you want literally men of fighting age capable of fighting a successful defensive war, or in theory capable of fighting a defensive war. And it's not enough that these men exist. They have to have the right kind of mindset, the attitude that would help them deal with their internal and external enemies. And you can tell from the way all these sort of white nashers, alt-right YouTubers are talking, it's like they know they haven't got that. They know they haven't got that. They can't organise so much as a bet up in a brewery, because they have no concept of shared values, because they have no religion, and they have no religion because they ceased to believe in Christianity a long, long time ago.
Yeah, but lots of people are ceasing to believe in Islam too. You think that people are going to believe in Islam because there's no Trinity, but they're starting to leave that too as well. And I think you're overconfident in people wanting to leave Christianity because of the Trinity. People have heard about the Trinity since the beginning of Christianity, or at least a few hundred years into it, and it didn't really bother them that much.
No, because there wasn't an alternative. In order to be socially respectable, you had to be Christian. But as long as the government had reasonably sensible laws, the civilization concerned would be okay. But what you're saying about Islam is that you're not being fair about Islam if you say, oh, the individual Muslim don't no longer believes in God. Islam without Sharia is a car without an engine. So obviously it has to have enforcement mechanisms, which we all do anyway, because that's what the law is for. It's there to punish us when we do the wrong thing, as far as the government is concerned.
But outside of moral issues, most people consider, at least for the most part, laws to be just, traffic laws and laws against stealing and bribery and blackmail and all these different kinds of things. I mean, most people consider those to be just, and so they don't really rebel against them very much. But these moral laws that you're saying are just going to turn everyone atheist.
Yes, and I think the more wealthy you are, the more likely you are to become atheist, because you think you can get away with breaking the rules, and you do probably get away with it for a while until you discover you have become poor. And apparently the Egypt birth rate is 3 and Iraq is 4, so it's I think poor people breed because they kind of know that's all they can do, right? It's the rich people who say, I don't think I can be bothered, or I can't afford to give them a
Yeah, well, that's the
university
problem.
education or whatever.
That's the problem. That's why you reduce everyone's birth rate so that the classes even out. That was the idea of birth control, that you can't get the wealthier classes or the more productive classes to have larger families. It's just not going to happen. So you get the poorer people to have smaller families, and then it's
And then you get a labour shortage. And then you have to import, cheaper immigrant labour, and then you complain. Because,
well,
well, that's what's happening. So, maybe we're not as clever as we thought we were, but I think, what we can agree globally, whatever race or nation, is that people don't like too much change forced upon them too soon. And what they can't bear is change that they can see, and the change that they can see is the racial composition of their country. And it really upsets them.
well, look, something had to be done at the turn of the century because people were living in absolute poverty. The poor were having 8 to 12 children that they couldn't take care of, and there was no way that a job in a factory could sustain a 7-child family, and so something had to be done. It was so
Well, there
that
was a First
situation.
World War, and lots of them died, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
I know, but you don't want to use war to reduce your population all the
okay, you
time.
don't have to. I told you how I would go about it, which is to say, if the government thinks that the birth rate is okay, you just keep it whatever it is, and say, if you don't have a marriage certificate, you're not allowed to have babies, and if you do, you're going to be punished with 100 lashes per illegitimate offspring. But those of you who are already married, you can only go on the pill when you're deemed to have completed your family, and the number of that can go up and down. So it's a very simple mechanism that any country can adopt, except that the pill would have to be regulated, which I think is fair enough. If you want to control your population, and in this way keep your population stable. Because what you don't want is suddenly lots of people, or suddenly half the population, and having to close down schools and hospitals and stuff. So I think everybody, including the ruling classes, want life to be more predictable, so they can just sort of do what they think is supposed to make them happy. And what's making us so unhappy is that, whatever we were told to do that we thought would make us happy no longer makes us happy, because we are filled with doubt and insecurities and fear of the future. And you can attribute the moral collapse to well, the loosening up, or well, sexual standards of behaviour. And humans are different, aren't we? I mean, non-human animals, I mean, they don't have birth control, and the female has to choose really carefully. She's not going to be having sex for fun with some guy. It's like, do I want him to be the father of my offspring? Is he good enough? They would be making more rational choices than the human female living in the West, because we're just so far removed from the consequences of these things, because we think, oh, we'll just take the pill and we can have fun, and until they go past the age of childbearing, and then they make themselves miserable because they miss their boat of becoming mothers. And it's like, how could you just not notice the day, the years going by, and how that you're approaching your 30s, and whatever. It's like, because society doesn't expect them to get married, and so they don't, and then they regret it, and then they get angry, and they get angry with men, and they vote against men. And maybe one of these days, the women will kind of get mad at gay people for, not gay men, because I think a lot of women get angry with men for not marrying them. I mean, they don't dare say that, but I think really, a lot of hatred felt by
Well,
men.
look, the reason women don't want to get married and they don't want to have children is because men treat them like garbage. That's just the crux of it. That's why they don't want to get married, and that's why they don't want to have kids, because if you
Because
have
they're not
kids,
encouraged to.
well, no, because if you have kids, then you're dependent, you've been slowed down, it's harder for you to work, it's harder for you to make your own way in the society, and it makes it more likely that you need the help of a man in order to get through things. And women do not want to be dependent upon a man because it's horrible.
Yeah, and men don't want to have to pay for all her shit. So it's a difficult thing to do properly, and if the state doesn't support it, then fewer and fewer people will do it, and if fewer and fewer people marry and properly parent their offspring, then the next generation will just be even more useless than the current one, and things will get worse. It's entirely
Yeah, but you
predictable.
never take in consideration the fact that you're making people miserable and that they're
Yeah, I
eventually
know you're
maybe.
miserable just thinking about it. I know. I mean, there's no escape, though. I mean, the best that we can hope for is that somebody nice will marry us, and our children might be okay. I mean, yeah, it is a bit oppressive, isn't it, when you think about it that way? But that's
Yeah.
how generations of men and women lived before us. We
Yeah, and they
happen
fought.
to have enjoyed a brief period of sexual liberation, and now it's crashing and burning. I mean, we might as well just admit that we got things wrong and that there is no escape.
Um, well, I don't want to think about that there is no escape. I don't think most people want to think about that.
I know.
And I think that people would rather be dead than go back to that. I think that
We must do a proper survey and not just, assume that whatever you say must be true. Maybe, some men do want to marry and could be made happy, and some women might be happily married with their children and their husband whom they love. It's possible.
some, yeah, but not enough.
Well, and if there are problems in our relationship, we could work on them and make it better.
Yeah, but the divorce rate shows that that's not true. It's
Well, you just have to
extremely.
abolish no fault divorce and stigmatize it.
People rebelled against that. They did.
Well, now they can unrebel against that because this has led to a generation of children who grew up in fatherless homes, and it's obviously had an effect on their character because you can't make them do anything. They're not even capable of logical thought. You want to end the conversation now?
No, I'm just saying that I think for this, I think it would be easier to use people's impulses to direct society rather than curb people's impulses to direct society, because one is internally regulated and one is externally regulated.
Well, okay, I'm going to say that my society offers gay people or people who don't want to marry, some room for maneuver because if there's enough people to do all the things that they do to keep the race in existence, then there wouldn't be so much pressure on people like, oh, you gotta marry, you gotta marry. It's like, well, it's okay, we have enough. We don't need to force you to marry. But at the moment, this is clearly the case that you want people to marry and have children. But and then you can afford to we'll look the other way. You can't be gay, but you just can't marry each other. And yes, you can have gay sex and you can live together, but you just can't make a public thing about it. And then people kind of know their place because obviously two parents struggling to bring up their annoying children is going to have a harder life than a pair of same-sex people who don't have to worry about their children. So for that reason alone, married couples with children should be given more respect than single people. And that was how it was. And also the thing is, it is also a good way of judging your national leader, because really your national leader should be a parent who has grown up children whose children haven't disgraced him, right? So it would be somebody in their 50s or 40s, to say, here's my kid, it's all right, it's not a criminal, it's not a mass murderer, not a drug dealer, but all right, I managed to do an okay job with my family, therefore I deserve to run your country. That kind of thing. And gay people can still be gay, but they just
I don't think that you can maintain an advanced civilization and monogamous marriage. I don't think the two. I think I think if you bring back traditional marriage, you'll bring back more of the type of society that we had, which wasn't as advanced as we have now. I think once things become advanced, people don't want to live in misery anymore. Look, once you get technology, people don't want to be out digging ditches anymore. They don't want to be out in the cold anymore. They don't want to do these things anymore because you don't have to. And people just don't want monogamous marriage anymore. And instead of trying to force them to do what they don't want to do in an advanced society where they have so many options, just try something different.
yeah, to try something different is more varieties of extramarital sex. And you yourself said it's not meant for everyone, so it won't even if it worked, it wouldn't work for everyone. So it's not that
Well, it's not going
efficient
to work
or
for everyone because
effective.
most people are jealous.
What, people are jealous of polygamous marriages? I don't think so.
What? Say that again?
You
No.
said did you say that people are envious? Did you just say that?
Jealous. Jealous.
Okay, so who is envious of whom for what reason?
Well, no. Most people can't practice polygamy because they're too jealous to practice that.
Oh
They can't.
yeah, and also if you already know that if polygamy was the rule, then there will be you know a group of men who will never be able to find a wife, and they would, well, become rapey and criminally inclined. So you don't want that. You want, you know, married men with children who will, do what the state tells them to do, and not be taking risks and becoming pirates and bandits and stuff like that. I mean, every time you propose something, there will be some little problem with it that will pop up, that will be, unexpected. And the trouble with new systems is that nobody, it will never build up a big enough steam of authority because people will doubt it. But, my narrative is that ancient Greece was cool until bad stuff happened. Look at them; they were they were mostly pederasts. Ancient Rome, same thing. Until Christianity told them that they couldn't be adulterers, they couldn't be fornicators, they couldn't be sodomites, and that raised the quality of the European race. And that explained their success in their European imperialism and their American imperialism.
Yeah, and it
But
brought in the Dark
unfortunately, for the past 50
Ages.
years, they forgot about marriage, and look at them now. There you go.
Christianity in Europe brought in the Dark Ages, and it was only in the Enlightenment where they started breaking with Christianity that advanced civilization in Europe arose.
But they still considered themselves Christian, right? I mean, you're going to say
Less
what the
so, less
American
so.
Revolution, the French Revolution were rejections of Christianity, I suppose. But okay. So liberalism is coming to an end. Would you agree?
I think it's under attack.
Yeah, it's under attack by Trump voters because liberalism is the official orthodoxy of the West, and the reason why Trump voters were treated as heretics basically, and called domestic terrorists and all that, was because they dared to reject the liberal orthodoxy, because Trump actually called himself a nationalist, which is pretty bold of him. But he said, "Well, what's wrong with that? Why can't I call myself a nationalist?" But that's not allowed.
It's liberalism is under attack, and I think that's not people leaving liberalism. That's not people who were liberal and now they're disillusioned with it so much, though there is that crossover going on. I just think that the people who are anti-liberal as it progresses are becoming louder and louder and louder and more forceful. And so it is under attack. Um,
Yeah, there is this Chinese expression which says everyone pushes at a falling fence. So if they see something is going down, they'll push it because it's irresistible. And obviously, there's something wrong with liberalism, and I'm saying that the reason why liberalism
but
is failing is
what's wrong with liberalism is they're not militant enough. I think that's what I'm trying to unite the opposites is liberals to be militant and to have a high birth rate. I think that's I'm trying to unite the opposites. I unite the opposites within myself. As I said, that's my problem, that I bring together too many ideas from left and right and I synthesize them and then nobody wants them because it's not paint by numbers. It's not this incongruous type of idea, especially liberalism right now is very incongruous, being friends with Islam and stuff like that. That makes no sense. I think that's part of the reason why they're declining because they don't know how to make proper alliances and they don't know how to stand on their own 2 feet and not join forces with Islam in order to defeat the white man. Um, I think that that's the problem with liberalism, and I agree more with the interperiod, interwar type of liberalism, where they were more into those types of things, and or maybe they weren't. I don't know if I can say
Well,
that. I think
liberalism is like, what is it now? Nobody can even say what liberalism is, which is another sign that it is not working. Because if you can't say liberalism is A, B, and C, or you can't get anyone to agree on what the A, B, and C are, you don't really have a working idea. And what's happening is that all these politicians basically put their idea on the table and say this is liberalism, which I will
well,
eventually drag it
liberalism needs to
down.
change. Liberalism needs to change. I mean, it does, and I think because it is liberalism, it's more likely to change than conservatism is. Though I used to think the opposite.
Conservatism is part of liberalism, I mean, when you think, okay, as far as I can tell, liberalism came from the ideas of the French Revolution and the American Revolution, and conservatism was a defensive ideology cooked up by people in Europe, Locke and I think, yeah, it was John Locke, wasn't it? And it was saying that we have to adapt to change, or we'll find ourselves overthrown. So basically, it was like we'll give in eventually, but not just yet, which is pathetic because then it hasn't defended anything worth defending. And the thing that conservatism should have been defending was social conservatism, and this can only mean the institutions of marriage and the family, which actually only religion can defend. Because the thing about religion, or the Abrahamic faith, is that if you do believe the whole thing, it means that God comes into your mind and is the policeman in your head. And this makes you want to obey the laws, or so because if you don't, you think you'll go to hell. And that was how compliance was ensured, both from through the law of the land, and also through the operation of the individual conscience. And what we know from history is that the nations who've adopted the Abrahamic faiths tend to do better than countries and civilizations that didn't do it, didn't
Well,
adopt
look,
it.
the
I mean,
Babylonians.
Hinduism and Buddhism is just, well,
I know, but I mean, Christianity might have had, as you say, it's had its time, and also, um, I think that the amount of liberalism we have today is because of what Christianity did. Like, I think liberals are gun control because Christianity, the white man under the influence of Christianity, was so violent and did so many horrible things that now they want to remove that from the population so that nobody can do these types of things again. I think that if there had been no Christianity, I mean, the Roman Empire and, like you said, the Greek Empire were militant. They were much more liberal in certain ways than we are. Um, but they were still militant because they didn't have this, history of oppressing the whole world and
they were very
being.
warlike. I mean, you can't say that the Greek city-states didn't fight. They were fighting each other the
I
whole
did say that
time.
they had war. I did say that they had war. They
Ah,
had that's my point, that they had war even though they were liberals. I mean, um,
well, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there will always be war. So war is, well, it has to be described
yeah,
as an
they were.
institution which has to be regulated, which actually, conveniently, the Quran does. It.
I'm saying that if liberals, the other reason that they're pro-Islam is because Christians are dropping bombs on Muslims and invaded the Holy Land and all this stuff. If look, I'm looking for a liberalism that's pro-war, anti-Islam, not socialist, high fecundity, those types of things.
Yeah,
I
but
am looking.
they don't go together. You see.
They do, but not in current liberalism. They don't.
I mean, if you're sexually liberated, then you're not going to be, becoming married soon, or staying, with your married partner very long. And this means that you will get, the quality of your people will just, get lower. They won't, be able to do the things that their parents and their grandparents and ancestors used to be able to do, because they'll be so, fucked in the head. With their drugs and their phone addiction and porn addiction and, so many mental health issues. And they will just be less efficient than people who are not addicted to those things. And ultimately, we are formed by our environment, and therefore we are formed by our parents and the family that we are born in. And that's why, our formative years are the most important, because, otherwise we'll just grow up, with a defective character or some mental health issue that we will never face.
If birth turns more into a contract, rather, look, these traditional men want to put women in a position they don't want to be in.
The women don't know what they want.
They know that they don't want a traditional lifestyle.
But maybe when they are past the age of childbearing, they suddenly want all those things that they can no longer have. You don't know what you've got until it's gone.
Needs to be a contract. This is why we need contract, reproduction, because they don't want to do it the traditional way. But then, nobody's having children because nobody wants to marry a man. And it needs to be done in such a way that she knows that she'll be able to have children without the controlling influence of a man. And, it should be contract marriage. You want to have a child, go into a contract with a man.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there. That marriage should be a contract, making divorce breach of the terms of the marriage contract, and that and you neatly abolish no fault divorce, and then it becomes fair enough for the man and the woman. It can easily be done, and then once the media are compliant, they can say, this is what you want, boys and girls, men and women. You'll be so happy doing this sort of thing, just like when the West was great.
They weren't happy doing those things. And I don't think that I think people were happier doing those things when life was more simple. When it was harder to find another mate, where, you didn't have as many choices, you didn't have the internet, you weren't traveling all around the world. The only place that you were was in your little town. And if you had sex with someone else, everyone knew, or they were married to someone. And, this was the problem. And these things just don't work in the modern world. There's a lot of things that just no longer work, like forcing people to do, people don't want to work shitty jobs anymore for low pay. People used to do that all the time. People used to work horrible jobs for nothing. And now people just don't want to do that anymore. And you can't force them to.
Why not?
Well,
if they had to do it, or didn't get paid, or didn't eat, well, then they do it, right? I mean, that's why people in the past did it. They didn't do it because it was such fun. They did it because, if they didn't do it, they wouldn't have a roof over their heads. They wouldn't have food in their belly. They wouldn't, So people will do things out of necessity.
Yes, well, as long as modern comforts are around, they're not going to do it. And
they can be shamed into doing things.
They can be what?
Shamed.
I don't think people feel much shame these days. I think that we live in too much of an individualistic society in order for someone to not do something because other people are shaming them, and there's not enough people to shame them.
But
And there's
what
other
cancel
people.
culture is about shaming, isn't it?
Yes, but that works because it's against the zeitgeist of the era. I mean, to get up and talk about homosexuals and women and in a pejorative way is against the zeitgeist of the era. So of course you're gonna, not be so
Popular.
successful at that. And I think that that shows that your program wouldn't work today because it's not the zeitgeist of the era.
You can change the zeitgeist with the media. The media creates a zeitgeist.
Okay, well, but 50% of the population is going to be against you, if not more.
Well, these people, you can make them believe in anything. I mean, they're just so stupid. They'll believe in anything. And even the ones who are not stupid, they'll say, well, I'll pretend to believe in it because to to not believe in it or to say I don't believe in it will get me into trouble. So I'll pretend to believe in it. And I know these people, and we know these people, and we've spoken to them. People like Con Ops and Jay Walker. I'm not going to talk about the thing that would get me a strike because I'm not allowed to say it now, but we know what we're talking about. All these people who supported Trump and later just said, oh, there was some, well, I don't even feel safe talking about it now, but we know what we're talking about. They're just saying there was some irregularity, but not such a huge amount of irregularity that would
What
have
caused
changed the
irregularity?
result. That's what they
What caused,
said. And
what
that was
caused
how they
irregularity?
reconciled two positions.
What caused irregularity?
You know about the how the irregularity in the American presidential election that was
Uh-huh.
supposed to have changed the result. But perhaps I shouldn't talk about it. But I'm
Yeah,
saying that there are
I
these
don't know.
people who originally supported Trump and then accepted the result, saying that there was some irregularity, but not so much that would have changed the result. Because that was the only thing that they felt they could, reconcile their previous position to the current, well, to the result. And we know those people, and it's like they're just unprincipled cucks, and they can be manipulated, because they're just they're not going to fight for anything, and they're just so transparently wanting to get mainstream approval, and there are lots of people like that. I mean, that was such an eye opener. It was disgusting, but it was an eye opener. And these people think they're clever. You see, these people think they're clever. So it's not just stupid people. There are lots of clever people who are going to be mindful of their status, and they will pretend to believe in something that they
Yeah,
don't believe in.
yeah, I mean, lots of people are stupid, but I think they're more likely to gravitate towards things like QAnon these days than they are to gravitate towards Islam.
Well, I think people are
Like
talking
I'm saying,
about.
everything is neo these days. People want to get into these Illuminati conspiracies and Trump conspiracies and alien conspiracies and reptile conspiracies. It's a different age. It's a different age. If you want to get control over the population, you get them involved in all these types of things. It's just a different kind of uh it's just a different era.
Well, I mean,
And
they
I
call these ideas neo because it's like, well, maybe we can put a new lick of paint on this old idea that we should never have abandoned, right? They should never have abandoned it. They've just gone so far astray that this idea that we thought was old fashioned and past its sell by date. Maybe we want it back again.
good luck with that, Claire. Let's see when that's gonna happen.
Yeah, well, I guess that would
I
have to.
think people would rather the society go down than return to that.
Well, it wasn't that bad. People are still nostalgic for the 60s, the 70s. I mean, they call it retro now. Uh,
They're
you know,
not nostalgic for
the
for
50s, it's like when America was white and we were powerful. But it was a Cold War, but we don't care. It was white. And that's all we care about.
well, it was obviously people didn't want to continue to live like that. I hate when people blame everything on the Jews. They blame all of liberalism on the Jews, like the Gentiles had nothing to do with that. The Gentiles were unhappy in their position, and especially the women, and they wanted out, and they got out. And maybe the Jews did help them, maybe they aided them, but they wanted out themselves and they were working for it themselves. And
The women will always be unhappy. That's how we're designed. It's like we want stuff, and you have to give it to us, or we'll be unhappy and make your lives miserable. That's the inescapable lot of man. This whole idea that you can't live with them, but you can't live without them, and therefore it is our duty to marry each other, because otherwise we'll just go even crazier and stupider if we don't, and have bad children that will destroy our civilization. That is, the prison that we're in.
I know, but most people don't want to think that they're in a prison that they can't escape from.
But I suppose you have this sort of idea of romantic love, that what if I love my husband, my wife, maybe I do want to live it happily ever after with them, and there are people who do think like that when they're in love. So
I know, but not enough people are thinking like that to keep that spark alive. I mean, 50% of marriages end in divorce, and of the other 50%, 25% of them must be very unhappy. So you have 25, you have marriage written for
marriage
25.
counseling, I'll do that. I'll help people with their bad
Oh,
marriages.
please. But a lot of marriages are bad because someone just has a bad disposition. It's, marriage counseling is not going to help personality disorders.
Well, then don't marry people with personality disorders. Don't have sex with
Well,
them.
why? That's what I would say about polygamy. Don't marriage people with mental disorders. Just if you want to have a sound polygamous marriage, don't marry people like that.
Well, you need to find these people so you can, work out, their practices and tendencies and whatever. And at the moment, it's just a kind of pie in the sky idea, because we don't know of these people. So maybe you should just sort of work towards getting, some TV station to make a sitcom, because I mean
Yeah,
that's what Americans are so good at. They
or a
just sort of, oh,
reality
the
TV
nuclear
show.
family,
A reality
Friends.
TV show. Well, they did have a polygamous reality TV show. It's called Sister Wives. It was followed these Mormons that there was a man with three wives.
Right, but that's almost too regular for your purposes, right? You want something a bit more mixed,
Yeah,
two men and a woman,
yeah, something more
something like that.
interesting.
But in Tibet, they have women sharing two men who have to be
Yeah,
brothers.
yeah, it's to keep the land in the family and not have the land broken up.
Well, I would, honestly, I would rather, be in a polygamous marriage than in a, uh, than that kind of marriage. I can't remember the name of the,
Polyandry.
polyandry. Yeah. Just imagine being sexually harassed by two men that you can't escape from.
Some women would like that, Claire.
Well, not after their bodies have been destroyed by years of constant childbirth.
That happens to women who are in monogamous marriages too.
Yeah, but it'd be worse if they're the two men harassing you and wanting you to have their baby, one after the other, one after the other. Horrible.
Well, I don't think it needs to be practiced quite like that. I think that people, can have some kind of um, control, especially if they have birth control, some control over their, you know, faculties.
But I mean, it just has to be simple and strong so people understand it and can, well, you're actually relying on other people to police it. All this sort of slut shaming. It's you have to shame the people who break the rules so that they don't. And people will have to behave in a different way, looking for different things to put each other down about rather than the stupid you know PC thing. Because they'll always want to do that anyway. People, they want to assert status over other people by lowering the status of other people. But obviously, when they do it, it should be in a good cause. So we just need to be programmed a different way when the moral system changes.
Give me 1 second.
All right. Well, somebody was saying men don't want to be responsible anymore. Well, I'm sure we don't want to be responsible for anything, but we can be made to be responsible. I'm feeling a bit peckish. And I know Vincent has eaten, but I haven't. Somebody says to let you know that, he said Obama is liberal and he did attack Syria and Libya.
Who's liberal?
Obama identifies as liberal and he attacked Libya, Syria, and Libya.
I know, but that was not. I mean, he was just following the marching orders of the presidents before him and the deep state and stuff like that. He wasn't doing that to end Islamic rule in the country. He wasn't doing that to spread liberalism. Excuse me. Liberalism in the Middle East. I mean, he did that. That's because that's America's policy.
Yeah, and he says liberals are friendly with Muslims, but liberal foreign policy is very anti-Islam.
That's what he said.
Yes, and he says Gulf states are rich and less religious. The Egypt birth rate is 3, Iraq birth rate is 4, and then he said men don't want to be responsible anymore.
He didn't say that.
Yeah, he did say that.
Obama said this?
No. This Arab said that.
Oh, he said that about Obama.
No, he's saying that Arab men in the Gulf states don't want to be don't want to be responsible for. They don't want to. Okay, he's basically saying, I think, that people are marrying older, and basically all these wealthy Arab men go out of the country and have their cheap sex in Dubai, and won't marry the women of their own country. So there are lots of unmarried Arab women.
Well, yeah, so something needs to be done.
Yeah,
Um,
less sexual
something,
liberation then. Because it's not just affecting the West, it's affecting, Arab countries who are supposed to be Muslim, but obviously they've kind of been infected by, the sexual mores of the West, and now,
you need to start, there just needs to be a eugenic cult that springs up. Just like, okay, like in Dune, the Bene Gesserit, there's this woman order that they just practice eugenics. They want to improve the universe, and so they go out and they do selective breeding with the best of men in order to produce they want to produce a population that is strong enough and powerful enough and honed enough in order to have control over the universe. And I think something like that needs to be put in place amongst liberal people.
But Vincent, how do you know if your society, if your eugenic policy is successful? How would you know? You won't know until your civilization has ended. I mean, the most you know is, aren't they more attractive, these, people these days, compared to their ancestors? Maybe they're better teeth, maybe they're not obese, they're six packs or whatever. But you won't be able to tell if, you know, if they've worked at all. I really think, all you care about is that, attractive people should have sex with each other and have good looking children who'll grow into, good looking adults, and,
It's
and,
not
and,
just
and
about
that
love.
will be enough for you. But maybe they're just stupid, these good looking people.
No, I mean, I'm more looking for, I guess, like like in Dune, I mean, not everyone was practicing eugenics. I mean, these women were not getting married. They were just kind of all collectively living together and helping each other. And they would go out and get pregnant and come out back. Though some of them would get married in order to have control over families. But the thing is that they were just trying to gain control this way. And I mean, they weren't totally in control in the book, but they were, looking to gain it. And
Oh, so there was some kind of lesbian collective in Dune, was there?
it wasn't they were only having sex with men. Everything was them being with men, but maybe they were lesbians. I mean, it kind of worked like nuns. They were kind of like cool nuns. I mean, they knew karate and all this other kind of stuff, and they were very well trained and intelligent and scary and all these different kinds of things. Um, John Gishala is in the chat, and I just wanted to tell him quickly that I really find it telling about his personality that when I first met him, he told me he didn't know much about the Noahide laws, but then I found out he used to be a Noahide. So I don't know why he lied about that. Um, I don't know why he lied about that. I think it's because he knows that these Noahide laws are off and, didn't want to like reveal that he was that close to them. I think he has an agenda to hide the Noahide laws from, being associated with mainstream Judaism. He doesn't want people thinking too much about this. So I found it very telling about his personality that he just lied like that.
Oh. Well, he's converted to Islam. Do you know that?
What?
Yeah. You
He was
obviously don't subscribe to my channel.
he was an Orthodox Jew the last time I checked.
Yeah, but he found a Muslim woman and he wanted to marry her and he's converted to Islam and he announced it yesterday.
I thought he was married already to an Orthodox woman.
Well, maybe he's married again, but anyway, the latest about him is that he's converted to Islam and he announced that on my channel, which was an honor. But yeah, it
Well,
was
that
yesterday.
that brings that brings him back to Noahidism, doesn't it? Because the you know Islam is not Noahide, but it's the closest thing to Noahide that you're gonna get.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And um, and I've got this line of questioning that should, it probably won't, but I mean it should um, push Jews into the corner of having to convert, and this is how it's. Let me explain it to you because I think you might be interested. Um, so basically, are you aware that there are 36 capital offences in the Torah, Vincent?
Mm-hmm.
You are. Do you know that one of them is called nidachat, which is being a citizen of a city that has gone astray? Did you know
Mm-hmm.
about that one?
Mm-mm.
So basically, it is death by beheading for a Jew if you if that Jew is a citizen of a city that practices idolatry.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know that Orthodox Jews think Christians are idolaters?
Yes.
And do you know that Orthodox Jews are forbidden from entering churches, which are places of abomination where idolatry is practiced?
Yes.
Therefore, any Jew who is a citizen of a Western nation that considers itself part of Christendom is technically guilty of nidakat. It could be argued, couldn't it?
Yes, I guess technically.
Yes, and that was obviously, what Hitler should have used if he'd bothered to study, Judaism. But anyway, that's my argument. So I'm saying, all you Jews who are citizens of a Western nation that is part of Christendom, technically, you've already clocked up one death penalty. I mean, not that anybody's going to, behead you for it, but presumably, if you believe that the Torah comes from God and he hasn't changed his mind on any of those things, when you meet your Maker after you pass away, you've got one death penalty waiting for you in the afterlife, and this means that if everything happens to plan, it's like, yeah, you've just died, but you will be subject to death by beheading, and maybe you've clocked up, other offences, other capital offences, quite a few, 36, while you're alive. So, if you committed sodomy, you're gonna, you're gonna get it. Adultery, breaking the Sabbath, picking up sticks on Saturdays, being a drunk and disobedient son, all those things would attract the death penalty for Jews, and all these Jews would have all that waiting for them, undischarged death penalties waiting for them when, in the afterlife. But they could escape it if they converted to Islam. Ha ha ha.
Yes, but a Jew is not allowed to convert to Islam. A Jew is not allowed to be a Noahide.
Well, I'm sure there were plenty of, clever Jewish children who must have asked their rabbi, saying, well, can Jews become Noahides? And I think they probably get, punished terribly for asking the question. But,
I
but
thought you asked, I remember you asking a rabbi if a Jew can become a Noahide, and he said no.
yeah, because they're supposed to say no, because but I mean, there is no authority for that. I guess all these rabbis over the centuries have been saying, don't let them read the Quran because they'll want to convert, to Islam because they'll get to heaven more easily, and then there'll be none of us left, right? Because they have to kind of guard their numbers, because obviously they think anyone who marries out or converts to another religion has kind of betrayed the tribe. So they don't want Jews doing that. So they have to tell them all kinds of pretty lies to keep them in the tribe. But I'm just putting it to them that if God actually exists, he would have a view on that. He would have a view on Christians being idolaters and blasphemers, and then he'd have a view on this sin of this crime of nidachat, about living um, in a city, being a citizen of a city that has gone astray. So, I mean, you could say, oh, but this is all divinely ordained, because really God wants them to convert to Islam. He wants them to sort of work it out and come to the conclusion that the only way to escape this terrible afterlife, if they remain Jewish, is to convert to Islam. There you go.
Well, Do you know if John Gisela still reveres the Jews, like the priestly class? I mean, is he following Islam, but he's doing it as a Noahide, and he's gonna take marching orders from the rabbis? I mean, what is his new position on his relationship with the Jews?
I don't know. He still says things like shalom because he forgets that he's now a Muslim. So I've said to him, maybe you should be saying salam. But I don't think. Okay, I myself have been accused of taking, worshipping Jews. It's like, no, I don't feel that I worship Jews. I use their ideas because they're useful to me to, advance these arguments that I want to make, and I find myself, saying these things to Jews. It's like, hey, do you really want to be faced with a beheading after you are dead? What and there's no authority for the proposition that God has just said, oh, no, don't worry about it, Jews, it's okay, you won't get punished, if you do these things. He never rescinded those laws, you know he never did, unless he can be interpreted to say, well, there was a second revelation for mankind, and it was the Quran, and the only two religions acceptable to the Abrahamic God is the religion based on the Torah and the religion based on the Quran. I mean, that's the way they can sort of square the situation with themselves and have a reasonable chance of getting to heaven if they believe in it. And if they don't believe in it, then, it's even worse. They just pretended to believe in God all this time. And, all the time they were, idolaters, because atheists are considered the equivalent of, being idolaters, because if they don't worship anything, they must worship their own, opinions, own views, own emotions and inclinations. So I think
Okay.
I did try this argument in Speaker's Corner on a young Jew, and well, we had to take it because it's that they don't learn these things. So I've heard some Jews on YouTube channels saying, oh, the Noahide laws, it just wasn't on my curriculum, so I don't know anything about it, right? So and then of course what I've just said about Nidakat, they don't learn anything about that either, because obviously European Jews, it's like they don't want to think that all their ancestors went to died and then had to be beheaded in the afterlife. So they basically ignored all that, right? They basically
Well,
not learned about it even.
I'm sure there's a provision within Judaism, like there is in Islam, that Islam has taysir, like if the lightening of the way, like if you live amongst idolaters and you need to fool them, you can have pork or you can have wine. You don't have to wear a hijab. You can handle pork items and you can sell pork items in a store, because technically, Muslims are not supposed to sell those items or touch them. Like in supermarkets, the women are not really supposed to touch pork. But if you're in an idolatrous country and you have to do it, you can do it. So I'm sure that Jews have something similar where it's like, if you're in a position where there's no other choice, then you can. Just, I know there's a position, if you're in no other choice, you can deny God or something like that. I mean, not always. There was a Jew, I think you put him on, or I put him on, or someone put him on, and he was talking about denying God. And there were certain
Bowing
situations
before
that if you,
idols, if yeah, there's like there's certain things that you mustn't do, even if they force you, and you're obliged to martyr yourself.
yeah, but
Called
then there's certain
Kiddush
things
Hashem.
there are certain things that you can do, that you can break certain laws.
Yeah, it's a bit like the takia thing. It's like, well, if your life, if people are going to be really mean to you, if you say you're Muslim, then pretend you're not.
Right.
But there are limits. I'll look it up. There's a Wikipedia entry on Kiddush Hashem, which means sanctification in the name of God, and it basically means martyrdom. So it's a
Yeah, you would choose martyrdom. You would choose martyrdom over
Yeah. So if they force you to bow before idols, you must give up your life. If they force you to commit certain sexual acts such as incest or adultery or murder, you must martyr yourself. That was basically the rule then.
hmm Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but they can't eat pork if forced to do so, and shellfish, and break the Sabbath. But but if the Gentile forces you to bow before idols, you are to martyr yourself. And or murder someone, or commit incest or adultery. But anyway,
Yeah.
the whole point of Jews, I think, is just to be an irritation for the Gentile, so that I really think these two groups are created to police each other's morals. So if the Jew doesn't agree, doesn't follow, they will be punished through anti-Semitism, and if the Gentile won't follow God's laws, they will feel oppressed by the Jew. And in a way, it is happening. It doesn't even have to be true that the Jews, have all the privileges or whatever. It's just that the Gentile, in perceiving the Jews to be in higher status than them, gets angry and upset and distressed and loses sleep, and gets himself or herself into trouble by denying the Holocaust to show hatred for Jews, because they just can't stand the fact that these Jews are supposed to have a higher status than them. So I think it's quite interesting. We don't have to believe in God, but we know that the motivations of people who hate Jews, are really about envy. It's like, who made you the boss? Who made you the chosen people? I
I don't
reject the
envy
God.
them. I don't envy them. I'm scared of them, but I don't envy them.
Are you scared of them?
hmm
Um, well, I'm just scared of the chaos, of the craziness, and of the policies that our government seem to be following. I mean, I don't think it's the Jews. I think it's just sort of evil people following stupid instructions, and they and just being mean.
Well, I believe Jews are less consciously involved in a conspiracy to use liberalism to weaken the Gentiles, less so than Jews are in a conspiracy to bring Noahidism to the world. I don't think liberal Jews sit around being like, let's spread gay marriage to weaken the population and then we can take over with communism. Like, I don't think that liberal Jews sit around doing that. I think liberal Jews are liberal because they're outsiders and because they were harassed when they were children and because bad things were done to them. They feel for other people that bad things were done to them and they want to help them. And I think that that's the motivation of liberal Jews. But I think liberal Jews, when it comes to the Noahide laws, from what I understand, they're going to be very defensive. They're going to, well, there's nothing really wrong with these Noahide laws. No one's being beheaded yet. You don't understand. They're not that bad. Like, liberal Jews are in a conspiracy to whitewash the Noahide laws. So I think that there's more of a Noahide conspiracy than there is a liberal conspiracy on the part of Jews.
And I think quite often these Jews are maybe more servants of liberalism than instigators of it, and maybe when they are more liberal than the Gentile, it's because they just want to fit in, and maybe they're just being a bit too annoying and enthusiastic about it. And obviously that liberalism will be a problem with a Gentile already. If he doesn't like liberalism, it'll be even more annoying for him to see Jews pushing it further, and maybe a lot of Jews just don't get it.
A lot of them, yeah, they don't get that, but look, they get that, anti-Noahidism is a problem for them. They get that.
Yes,
And
because it's in a way, a display of anti-Semitism. Well, I think it is anyway, because I find the no-hide laws quite inoffensive, and therefore the only reason why Gentiles would have a problem with them is because they don't like the ones forbidding idolatry and blasphemy.
Yeah, I know that's your opinion, but well, you know that I don't like it because I am an idolater and a blasphemer and a homosexual, so I actually have reasons that are not based in anti-Semitism to hate the Noahide laws.
Yes, yes, I do accept that, and but anyway, they're not your favourite people, and you are kind of you have also said you're scared of them, but but
I
I don't think, I
am.
mean, they might say, oh, but we're scared of you. That's why we never taught the no hide laws properly, because you were going to be mean to us if we said anything about Christianity being idolatry and blasphemy, particularly when you did take Christianity seriously. In the times when Christians were burning, heretics at the stake. Maybe that wasn't a good time to, talk about the idolatry and blasphemy of Christianity. But now it's okay because of the First Amendment.
Yeah, it's okay now. They're doing it now, though. I mean, what matters is what's going on right now, and they are spreading this. And um,
Okay. The latest thing with Jews is that they're complaining about these Christian missionaries converting them, the Jews, into Christianity. Because they would say, well, why don't you just convert, other Gentiles? But no, it's like, if you convert a Jew, it's more valuable. And if you convert the Jews, that's going to be, or the intention is to trigger the second coming of Jesus. So there is this sort of missionizing campaign to convert Jews to Christianity, and
yeah.
yeah, and now I think a whole bunch of rabbis have been bribed to be friendly with Christians, inviting them into the synagogue. So you get a few of these ultra orthodox rabbis who are just beside themselves with rage and horror at what's happening. So yeah, that's the latest thing. But they do complain about it in Israel, saying that these Christian missionaries, they from America, they fly in, they have lots of money, they target hard up Jews, give them lots of money, or and disguise themselves as Orthodox Jews and live in the community for ages, and then say, oh, Jesus is Jewish, it's okay to worship Jesus because he's one of us. And then
Hmm.
the not so bright ones swallow it hook, line, and sinker. But what I'm trying to say is, if God exists, He would be really annoyed about that. It's like, of all the people in the world to convert to Christianity, Jews converting to Christianity, it must be the end of the world.
Yes, well, I think that they're going to slow down on that as the Jews push more that it's kind of anti-Semitism to go over there and try to convert them, right? And I think that the Jews are going to be the ones who assert control in that situation soon enough. And I think they're going to get revenge with these Noahide laws because already Christians are out there saying, well, we should accept the Noahide laws and Jesus. But once you accept the Noahide laws, you realize you don't need Jesus, right?
Well,
Once you have
well,
the
they
Noahide,
can't be. It's like the no hide laws, makes quite clear that Christianity is the least no hide. My ranking system,
yeah.
which they won't do because they're scared of you guys, right? They,
Hmm.
no, because I've spoken, I communicated with a few of these rabbis. It's like, what you propose is dangerous. Do you know what they did to us before this? How could you ask us to do that? You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is dangerous. It's dangerous to spread the Noahide laws because it's going to get the Gentiles. It's going to get the Gentiles angry, and but
So
Yeah,
they are
because
scared, but anyway, Christianity is kaput, and if God exists, he'll be angry with Jews and Gentiles. So it's just a possibility that I'm, trying to put to people. I mean, in case you want to examine, think of the world from a theistic standpoint. I just don't think people are even thinking the thing through properly as either theists or yeah, yeah, particularly those who claim to believe in God. It's like, well, obviously God would have a view on whether he's also Jesus, right? I mean, he's if he exists, he will, you know, have a view on it. I don't think he will agree with Christians. But it's
yes,
like
but
Christians don't seem to care, and I think a lot of Christians don't really believe in it either. They just want they want to LARP as Christians to annoy Jews and Muslims because Christianity is great. I mean, if you ever go to Hyde Park Corner, there is this sort of time of day when some Christian speaker brings this enormous cross, and he just there's a procession and to annoy the Muslims, and the Muslims haven't got this thing because their symbol is just a crescent and a star, and they can't do it properly, but yeah, so Christian symbolism is quite potent. But I mean, this
yeah,
is what is going on at the moment. I think that the religious argument, that should be the next stage of Western politics, and I want to be part of it. I don't think any of us can escape it really, even if we're atheists, because a lot of nationalists are saying, "Ooh, what's wrong? What's happened to us? Why are we always complaining about Jews and Muslims?" It's like, well, because they have a religion and you guys don't.
yeah, I know, but if they weren't getting money from the West and technology from the West and selling oils from to the West, these Islamic countries would not be a threat.
Yeah, but you kind of need to drill their oil, and you kind of need to keep them sweet too. So fundamentally, everything will come out in the end. I mean, I remember somebody saying, "Oh, we should have built all those railways in these third world countries because now they know how to do it and they do it better than us and blah blah blah." But really, the only reason why the British built railways in India was to facilitate the transfer of goods and services. I mean all empires are about moving stuff and people around, and treating the empire as one country. So obviously there will be some kind of transfer of technology and absorption of their culture too.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know, but I mean, look, without the West feeding them, Islam really can't do anything on its own, and that's very obvious. Um, Neither can Orthodox Jews, for that matter, because they don't. Judaism is not a very scientific culture. Um, a lot of them shun higher education. Um, they don't talk about the dinosaurs or anything like that. Liberal Jews are integrated into the Gentile system, so they're scientists and all these different kinds of things, and that
but
you're
they
not
don't
so.
have babies. I mean, they say that all these reform synagogues, they're empty because they just go gay or go old, and then they don't have babies, and it's the Orthodox Jews who bother having children. So
Yeah, I know this is the problem that Orthodox people have children and liberal people don't. That's the problem. That's what needs to change.
yeah, and what the Israeli government is doing is basically saying, well, we need these people to come to our country and do our work. And what they seem to be doing is that they pretend to find the lost tribes of Israel in different parts of the world and then invite them to come over. And what they're doing now is saying, well, you could convert to Reform Judaism, and and then become an Israeli citizen or something. Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get their cheap labor, and under bypassing the sort of numerous Orthodox Jews by inviting Gentiles in and converting them to a kind of superficial form of Judaism, and get them to vote against these terrible Orthodox Jews who want all kinds of inconveniently restrictive policies. So that's what the Israelis are doing to each other. It's fascinating. You should take an interest about how they're fighting. And
Yeah,
then they have to deal with Christians converting them to Christianity.
well, a lot of that's going to change. That is the Noahide laws, as they get more and more servants around the world. Um,
Yeah, but they're not even Noahide, because all these rabbis kind of they're not very happy when I point out to them that Israel is not even Noahide. They're supposed to be the people supposed to set standards, and they're not even Noahide in Israel. So if God exists, he would be mad at them, and be sharpening his knives of revenge, so to speak. And also all these things about, well, we know they want to build their third temple, but inconveniently for them, the Al Aqsa Mosque is there on Temple Mount. And the thing is, they kind of don't even want to build it, because they'll just be arguing about who's going to be the priesthood and how the sacrifices are going to be made, and maybe kind of acknowledge that Temple Judaism wasn't successful because it ended them up being kicked out by the Romans, beginning their 2,000 years of exile. So it's like there are signs of Islam there saying, look, there's a mosque there. If you want to become a theocracy, well, you know what kind of theocracy you're going to become. It'll have to be a Sharia theocracy, because no Jews don't want a Torah theocracy with 36 capital offences, when they're already so terrified of Islam being a bit strict. And I'm saying, secular Koranism is Islam light. And Jews in Israel could interpret, the Quran. I mean, if they want to control the entire interpretation of it, I mean, they could. And the thing is, Islam is so flexible that Malaysia, which is actually an ethno-nationalist country, uses Islam as part of its ethno-nationalism. Did you know that?
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
Islam
so
is not super flexible. I mean, it's not super flexible.
well, it is quite flexible as far as I'm concerned, because look what I'm trying to do to it, and also the interesting thing about Malaysia is that China sends its imams to Malaysia because it likes a kind of liberal, more liberal kind of Malaysian Islam, Malaysian Sharia. So. So I think different countries will find different users. Obviously, they won't be interpreting it in the same way, but I think eventually people will see the light and say, well, whatever we think of Muslims, at least they have a book, and the book won't be changing its words the way our politicians change our laws, like they change their underwear, which is what is driving everyone crazy.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down. I hope it comes down to a war, because the way liberals are behaving now, they would lose the war, and they're losing the war. And liberals are losing their way with Islam, particularly because those are two incompatible ideas. And the liberals are open. Muslims don't like liberals. Muslims are not really in line with all this gay stuff and women's rights and all this kind of stuff. They're not in with that. They're just using the left. The left can't see that as well, and they're less armed, less militant, less fervorous. Um, they have less of that oomph than Islam has. And so Islam is going to dominate itself in those circles. And it has, as we can see, that leftists are now becoming anti-free speech with, everything being Islamophobia. If you have anything to say about Islam, you're Islamophobic, even if it's about throwing gay people off buildings. Well, if you mention that, you're Islamophobic. And, we can see a decrease in a freedom of speech in the West since Islam has been introduced. And leftists or leftists and liberals should be really on the opposite side of that.
Well, the thing is, we're trying to, I suppose each political activist is trying to get the correct synthesis with which to advance their own ideology. I mean, I've done the same thing, and we know it's been done, National Socialism. What was it but an attempt by Hitler to synthesize two different ideologies and saying, we'll just, keep the best of communism and keep, make it work with nationalism, right? I mean, that was what he was doing when he, came out with National Socialism. And I think a lot of people who are political activists are cooking up their own combination, or maybe or is it just me? Because that I don't mind admitting that that's what I've been doing, but I don't know what the others are doing. They're just still blaming the Jews or something.
Is this Diana X that's in the chat? Is that the same Diana that you did that interview with just recently?
Yes, I think that must be her.
Everyone was asking for her to come back because they don't like my so-called degeneracy, and they felt her to be a lot more wholesome.
Great. I'll Would you like her to come on? There's something happening with my stream. Can you?
If she wants to come on, I don't know what she wants to add to this. She can add what she wants. What's her opinion that we should go back to tradition and traditional marriage and traditional roles for women and stuff like that?
No. She's an unmarried mother herself. So and she's quite liberal about it. So no.
So why was everyone saying she was so wholesome?
Well, because she's a mother.
Okay, but I thought, in your opinion, unwed mothers were really not the best thing.
Well, I'm very tolerant, aren't I? I talk to everybody. I'm
I
not
know,
really.
but you mustn't agree with her being a single mother.
Well, I've explained to her that nothing is going to happen to her, even if Germany became secular Koranist, today, because there would be no retrospective legislation. Would you like her to join us?
She can, yeah, she can, sure.
Great. You haven't spoken to her. I mean, have you heard her?
No, I haven't. She's from Germany.
Yes. Yes. So she might join us, or somebody else might.
Okay.
But yes, I mean she's the most respectable person, in these circles, because she has a job, she's a mother, and she's not really one of us. I mean, in the sense that she doesn't consider herself to be alt-right, but we know that she's a little bit concerned about immigration, and she knows lots of people who voted AFD.
Hmm.
And really, the people like Connaught, it's like, yeah, we know you're concerned about immigration, but he's just sort of trying to pretend that he's better than us, and he's not really one of us, but he is an Islamophobe. And
Wait, hold on. Is there someone here? Hello? Okay, thank you.
So is anybody coming? Diana? It'd be lovely to have you again. Oh dear. There's some German. She hasn't arrived yet. Yes, she's coming. She's coming. She says she's coming. Yay.
Okay, good.
Because I've kind of got the munchies. Do you speak any German?
No.
Oh, I must remember. I must look up how to say God is dead, and we have killed him in German. Gott ist tot. I think that's yes.
Gott
She said,
ist
I didn't
tot.
listen to the stream, so I don't have anything to add, I'm afraid.
Oh, she's not coming?
I don't think so.
Oh, you could just talk about anything, Diana. I mean, but you will be talking with Vincent, so because I'll be having something to eat in the kitchen. Well, I'll be bringing it to the computer, but I'm sure you'll have lots of things to talk about, if you'd like, Diana. It'd be actually quite interesting to see the two of you interact. So basically, Vincent is wants more sexual liberation. He wants more. He wants to introduce polygamous families, so more babies can be produced more easily. And obviously, my objection to it is that any children brought up within such families will not enjoy such a good life as those who grew up in a family brought up by their two married biological parents.
Well, if Diana had started out in a polygamous family, maybe she would still have some of them around her and she wouldn't be single mom, and it would be easier for her to raise her children. So maybe if she started out, with a group of people, then one of them leaving wouldn't be such a big problem.
If she lived in a lesbian collective.
Well, I guess that too. If she lived in a lesbian collective, she wouldn't.
So it would be like a harem. So any man can just go and impregnate all of them, and then so that's why people call your idea breeding farms. You get all these sort of women living in their lesbian collective, so they do get some sex when there are no men around, and then every now and then a man will come and just have sex with his favourites or whatever, the prettiest ones, and well, I suppose in theory it could work.
Well, they don't need to be lesbians, but it would help if they were bisexual, because then, you don't always need a man there. Though I think most bisexual women need a man, you know what I mean? That's why they're bisexual.
And sometimes, I mean, people want a member of the opposite sex for status reasons. Maybe maybe they don't really want to have sex with them particularly, but people always associate having a husband or a wife with being better than being a spinster or bachelor. So, I mean, a lot of status does go into it, I think. Hooray! Here she is.
Hello.
Hello, Diana.
Hello, how are you guys?
Very
Good.
well.
How are you?
Wow, Claire, I'm definitely on here too often. Soon they will say you and me are friends. So I'm friends with this Sharia-loving woman. I don't know. I need to think about that.
Are you against the Sharia?
Of course. Sharia law in Germany. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, Claire seems to think that it's the answer to our problems.
Was to cut people's hands off and heads and everything.
No, not like that.
Well,
It
what do
won't be that kind of strictness. Anyway, beheading is just a form of death penalty, which, is probably the kindest way of doing it in those days.
Yeah, but when you and me spoke before, Claire, you did say we talked about a situation if somebody steals like shares out of my garden, and you did say, well, if you steal something, you get your hand cut off, right?
I actually said violent robbers. So if you're a mugger, if you ever use the threat of violence to take other people's stuff, then you would have your hand cut off. So, and you would have to do it 3 times, 3 strikes, and you're out. And I think that's fair enough. For other kinds of thieves, that they'll be required to pay it back, twice the
Oh,
amount or something.
3 strikes before you lose your hand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. And how would it happen then? Would it happen on the marketplace, and I sent my kids to go and watch it, or?
Yeah, I think it should be public. I mean, as a matter of principle, yes, so that your children don't think of doing anything like that.
Nobody else do it again.
Oh, that's such a horrible thought, really. If I would think that's part of the society I live in, like, oh, it's Saturday, let's go to the marketplace. People will lose their hands and heads. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
can
all
you imagine,
go.
Mummy, can you take us to the market because we want to see another game?
Yeah, we can laugh about that, but how horrible is that,
Oh,
really?
come
If
on,
kids have
European
to see that.
civilization was done on, it's like public torture was a matter of entertainment. You would burn each other at a stake, and you're just going,
Yeah, we
yes,
did
that's
have
what you
that.
did.
But we overcome it, we developed as a nation, as a society. We just developed, and that's why these kind of things are the past and not the present anymore.
Yeah, and now look at you can't keep any of these immigrants out.
Yeah, but we still all have our hands and heads, at least.
Well, you
Well,
keep them if you don't steal violently.
What is Diana? What do you think about the birth rate in Germany? What's your opinion on that?
The birth rate. Well,
Yeah.
the birth rate is pretty much showing the problem we are having, right?
Yes.
It's, I said that last time. I think Japan has the oldest, how do you say that, citizens in the country, and Germany is second. So we have loads of old people, but not enough babies, which means more people are dying than being born. And that is a very big demographic problem we have here in Germany. And the politicians say that's why we need immigration. And also we have installed so many not rules, like benefits mothers get, or young families get, like please get babies, right? They give us money, they even give us money to buy the house, and we get money for our kids every month anyway. It doesn't even matter how much we earn. We can be millionaires and we are still getting what we get. I think I get 430 for 2 kids. So yeah, it's 215 for each kid every month, just for having a kid until the kid is 18, and I don't need to do anything for it. And they do that so families decide to have babies, right?
Right. But in civilized conditions, people don't want to have a lot of children because that's a strain on your pocketbook. It's a strain on your life, and then with the advent of birth control, it made it so that you don't have to have children. So I think that it's very difficult. Well, now, even though we live in the modern world with all this money and all this technology and all these things, we're poorer than we used to be because you can't any longer raise 8 children or 6 children. Back in the 50s, you could have 6 kids in a house. on one income. With a father's income, you could take care of your wife, 6 kids, and own a house and buy a car and all these different kinds of things. You can't do that anymore. It's impossible. So what I'm saying is to introduce polygamy into the population so that people can have larger families and there would be more adults within the family to help take care of the children and to pay the expenses and things like that.
Exactly. So the money is one reason, but there's also the other reason where I mean, Claire and me have spoken about it. It's the understanding what kind of life modern women in our societies want to live. So they get one kid, stay at home for 1 year, and then they want to go back to work. Some
Yeah.
of them want to go back to work. Some of them have to go back to work because that one income is not even enough to pay off the house, to have 2 cars and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
But also if they push themselves through education and all that, they want to be part of that world as well and have a job and have their own projects and, you know, not only be a nappy changer for 6 kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big problem. And that's why I'm saying it would be easier if we had polygamy, because then 1 could stay home, 2 could go to work, 3 could go to work, 1 could stay home and take care of the kids. It would be less stressful for everyone. And yeah, that's why I would think in, multiple family homes, it doesn't even necessarily need to be polygamy and that they don't all need to be having sex with each other. They can just have an agreement where they live together and help each other raise each other's children.
But when you say that, you imagine one man being the boss of the house and the man is having 3 women roommates, sex mates, moms, whatever in the house, right? It's not that one woman would have 3 men and
She could, yeah.
she could, and maybe one woman. So one woman lives with another woman and 2 men, and they are all or are not sexual active between each other, and they have kids together and have jobs and just have a bigger household.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you dream at night?
That's what I'm trying to push.
But
You don't think it'll work?
do you know what it reminds me of? The hippie time, the 1968 generation here in Germany. You know, like some people did that a little bit. They didn't get married and stuff like that, but that's the kind of life they pushed.
Yeah, but I think that they weren't doing it for certain purposes. They weren't doing it to increase the birth rate. They weren't doing it to make family life easier for everyone. They were doing it as this kind of social experiment. You know what I mean? It wasn't practical. They weren't thinking about practical issues about increasing the birth rate and things like that.
No, they were thinking about freedom. They wanted to do what they want to do. They didn't want to get judged and just live what they want to live.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, if you have 50% men, 50% women in a society, and yeah, the thing is, I do believe in true love, and I do believe that if you find the partner and you love the partner, you can stay with him as long as the love is there and as long as you are happy together. And if that isn't the case anymore, it's better to end the relationship and then find somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if it depends on what you can afford or how you want to do it, if you have kids, and there are different ways of doing it. I don't necessarily believe in marriage. I'm not a religious person. I've never spoken to you. I have no idea what you stand for, and what you are believing in. I'm not a religious person. I'm not a political person, so I don't even know how I ended up here on Claire's. I personally believe you only live once on this planet, and you should do anything possible to live a happy life, whatever that is. I don't care what it is. Live the concept of life which you think makes you happy.
Right.
Like thought.
Well, that's my problem with Claire's thing, is that she wants to reimpose traditionalism and use force to make sure everyone does it. And my thing is that any society where you're forcing people to do things, there's going to be a rebellion eventually.
I think that's not going to happen because we have developed as a society and we have fought for certain freedoms and choices we do have now. And I think you can't stop that and say, let's go back to traditional. Time has moved on. Life has moved on with everything. So to come back with the 50s, it's not realistic at all. And Claire's theory, I've said to her plenty of times now, I love how much energy she puts in an idea, in a theory, but really, I wish she would push that into something more realistic instead of, a theory, if it's not realistic, it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
So, but she can't. She's not changing her theory enough to make it interesting for anybody. There's nobody out there who has come to her in all these years saying, look, Claire, yeah, I see the idea, I see it's good, and let's just transform it a little bit so it's more realistic. Nobody's interested in that, right?
Mm-mm.
And that is for a reason.
Well, nobody wants it. The liberals, obviously, Western civilization doesn't want it, but Muslims don't want it either. A lot of Muslims are upset with Claire for what she does because her version of Sharia is very unorthodox and very liberal. She's too conservative for the West. She's too liberal for Muslims.
Sounds like an identity crisis.
Well, she's trying to synthesize things that don't go together.
But they do in theory, in her mind. She has an answer to everything. And if she doesn't, she sits down and thinks about it and comes back with an answer. It's what she does, but it's still not realistic, and it won't be the future. It's just not happening. Not here, at least. Where do you live, actually?
I live in the USA.
Oh, in the USA, okay. So does she want to have this happening in the USA as well, or is it just a European thing?
I think she wants it everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, you need to think big, Claire, right? She's gone, actually. She left us alone.
Yeah, she's on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to point towards something more liberal, and that goes along more with the way life is now. And I think that it would be easier to get people on board with complex marriage than it would be with Sharia.
I got a little bit distracted, so I was only half here.
No, I'm saying that I think it would be easier to get people into polygamy than it would be to get them into Sharia.
Yes, I think so too. Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. That is what it's happening anyway, already in our societies, but we call it cheating, right?
Yeah, or polyamory. I mean, polyamory is starting to become really popular, and the traditionalists really hate it. I mean, they hate this polyamory so much, but I'm saying if the polyamorous community organized and started breeding, that we can outcompete. This is my idea. First of all, I don't think polygamy is for everyone. And I don't
was just my thought. Mm-hmm.
It's not for everyone, and I don't think everyone should practice polygamy. But I think what I want is in a democratic society that with a larger family, with more connections, with more wealth, with a greater network, that a small number of polygamists can rise, can rise to political and social and cultural heights and become disproportionately influential in society, like the Jews or the gays are. And That's more what I'm looking for, more so than to get everyone polygamist.
Now, people would have to try it out, and it's like you say, not for everyone. It depends on if you want a relationship just with one partner, if jealousy is a problem for you, if you can share attention when it comes to a person you desire or you are in love with, and some even say love is overrated. So it's just they fancy each other, they live together, they are friends, and they live the way they want to live. I wouldn't mind that, to be honest. And I wouldn't think that this would be for that many people. I don't think that all my neighbors out of the sudden would have 2 or 3 women in the house. It's only for some, I would think.
Yeah, it's only for some.
They would try it like, oh wow, that sounds like a dream I've always had, and they try it and then they realize how complicated it is to live with 2 or 3 women, and then the bickering over the role they want to have, and woman number one, number two, and oh god, especially if the women are strong-minded, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not trying to force this down the whole population's throat. I'm just saying that those of us who are like this, we should organize more. I mean, my whole thing is that liberals should be more militant and congruous. Like, if liberals were against Islam, they would have a lot more respect. I mean, being anti-Islam sounds like a liberal cause, right? It sounds like what you should be doing, but they're not doing that. And I don't think that liberals should be into gun control and things like that. I think that they should be looking for power. Instead of trying to diminish their own power, they should be looking for more of it. And I think they should become imperialistic. I think that liberals should invade Muslim countries in order to impose women's and gays' rights on them. And I think they would have a lot more respect for that.
I think when you say liberals and you live in the USA, I would think the liberals in the USA probably stand for something else than they do in the European Union.
Well, they're leftists. They're leftists.
They're more, I mean, I get called a liberal all the time, and just because I am from Europe, right? And I would say we are maybe more tolerant, more liberal than the Republicans in the USA, but I don't know if that is even true. I've spoken to that many Republicans over there in the USA, and they don't mind gay marriage. They don't mind a lot of things. They are very concentrated on their gun rights and on the Constitution. But a lot of things they are quite open to. That's what I experienced.
Yeah, I mean, the conservatives in America, it depends. The Christian conservatives are less open. Well, all conservatives in America are more open than they used to be. So that's true. I mean, I've been trying to work on them, and I found that it's very hard, even though there's a difference. There's a difference between Christians and these new anti-Semitic white racialist right-wing people. There's a difference between those two. And I thought that the non-traditional conservatives who aren't Christian would be more I find the Christians to be, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. I was talking about how there's a difference between the Christian and the non-traditional conservatives, and I thought one would be more open-minded than the other, but I've been kind of wrong on that. I do find that anti-Semitic white racialist right-wing men are a little bit more creative. In that they're not so much into Christian dogma, and so they're a little bit more open to things, but not enough. I'm really starting to believe that there really isn't any group on the planet that is open enough. My thing is about synthesizing what makes sense between both parties and putting them together, like being liberal but also being anti-Islam at the same time. That makes sense. Bring those two things together because that makes sense. But most people can't do that.
Okay, see, and here comes my I'm far too tolerant, maybe, or open minded, or whatever. I don't belong to any of these groups, and I'm not anti Islam, I'm not anti Jewish, I'm not anti gay, I'm not anti a lot, to be honest.
You're not anti-Islam?
No, I'm not anti, I wouldn't live in an Islam society, but let them do what they want somewhere else, right? I
Well,
don't.
don't you feel for those women and those gay people who are suffering there?
Oh yeah, that is yes. Look. I feel for many people in this world, but I just can't carry this heavy bag on my little shoulders, right?
Well,
I
you can by being an anti-Islamic person. You can help the cause by saying Islam isn't good anywhere.
I think it's on the people. I mean, seriously, I feel very sorry for the African kids which don't have enough to eat and which go out every day and eat rubbish from the corner, which they find in the mud on the streets. I feel very sorry for them.
I know, but that's something that would take your money and time to combat, whereas spreading anti-Islamic ideology is free.
Oh, it's free, so I can just do that. But I actually, I do feel sorry for women all over the world which can't live the life they want to live. I feel sorry for each and every single kid which can't get the education they should get and maybe live the life they dream of just because they were born in a country which can't um, give them these opportunities. But I can do something about that, right? I also feel sorry for all the animals we treat bad. Um, and I'm still eating meat. Although if I go to a slaughterhouse one time, I'm sure I would never ever eat meat after that again. I'm kind of a hypocrite when it comes to that. So, does it bother me enough to do something about it? Do I go and fly to a poor country and become a teacher to help and educate these kids? No, I'm not doing that. Um, am I doing anything like that? No, I'm not. So why would
Yeah,
I?
but why wouldn't you be anti-Islam if it hurts women and gays? Why wouldn't you be anti that?
Because it's a very, very old religion and it is installed in certain countries, and if the people there don't want it anymore, they can do something about it.
Well, they have a very strong grip over the population. A lot of Iranians don't want to live in a theocracy anymore, but they're being forced to do it.
Yes, but a lot of them left as well. They're left to
Yeah,
live.
but they can't leave a lot of them.
Yes, a lot can't leave, but I can't save them all, and I don't want. Is your idea to have the world Islam free
Yeah, I want
or
an Islamic
religion?
free world.
Yes,
An Islamic free
and
world, yes.
and what would the alternative be? Christianity everywhere.
No, not Christianity. I'm anti-Christian too and anti-Jewish. Um,
Oh,
Sound, sane liberalism, not
oh,
leftism, not socialism,
oh.
but a liberal social order um, with at least a partial free market economy and maybe a little bit of socialism mixed in, but not Islam or Christianity or Judaism, neither of them.
So
Any
pretty much no religion at all, just a moral system
Oh, I
and
don't mind paganism or things like that, but not a monotheistic Abrahamic religion, no.
mhm. Interesting. I mean, I'm an agnostic atheist, so religion doesn't really have a role in my life. But have decided that this is my own decision. I'm happy with it. I don't feel that I miss anything. But I do know, I mean, you have so many different beliefs, even in Christianity here in Germany. If I would put 100 Germans in a row and ask them, what do you believe? These 100 people would say something different, right? Because it's a very personal, individual thing. And just because I don't need religion in my life and the belief in God in my life doesn't mean that others don't need it. They do. It gives them structure. It gives them, people need to believe in something. A lot do.
Well, they
So,
can believe in something besides Abrahamic monotheism.
yeah, but it's not so easy. You cannot just turn around to them and tell them. They would fight you for that. And I think,
Well, that's fight back. That's what I'm saying, why liberals need to be imperialistic. Bomb all the government buildings inside of these Islamic countries, implode them, go in and force the liberal regime on them. But what I think they should do, they should make safe havens in these countries where gays and women can escape and go to and be away from the men. And if you get enough women away, it'll decrease their birth rate. But just implode the society. Do everything you can to absolutely implode that society and start it again. Gather up all the atheists, all the liberals, all the pagans, all the women, all the gays, and turn them on their own society.
okay, bombs are the solution. I mean, I understand what you are saying there, but I think stuff like that would only work if like 90% of the people in that society would turn around to you and say, yes, let's start from the beginning.
It
Of
doesn't need
course,
to be 90%, but there's a lot of people in these countries that don't want to live under Islamic dictatorships anymore.
of course there is. And it's like you say, you have them women, you have them gay people, which were born there and can't be the person they want to be. And I understand that. And they would maybe go, yes, let's do it. But the majority needs to want it. And then you need to give them a very good alternative, which 90 or 80% of the people support. And you have an idea what's good for them, but they maybe have an idea what's good for them too, and they are the ones who have to live it. So you need to pick the people up where they stand.
But you can't, I mean, what's the difference between someone doing bad to people in Germany versus somebody doing bad just because it's in Germany? Look, I'm not gonna save someone just because they're in my own country and not save someone else because they're not in my own country. What's wrong is wrong.
Yeah, but you can only save someone if they really want to be saved, and if they don't even feel like they want to be saved and you force it on them, then that goes wrong.
There's people in these countries that want to be saved. There are people
Of course there is, but just because there's some people doesn't mean that the full society wants it. Just look what the USA has done to Afghanistan, Iraq, and all these countries. That was a success. I don't think it was
in Nazi Germany. In Nazi Germany, a lot of people wanted it, and they were, they weren't persecuting everyone. They were just persecuting the Jews, and it wasn't like everyone was in trouble. And they obviously wanted to live like that. And so what's the difference? So we could have said, so what? They're persecuting Jews in Germany. It's not our problem.
But I need to correct you here. The first people they killed were disabled people, right? You know that, don't you? The first people which got killed by the Nazis weren't Jewish. They were disabled people, the weak, right? And then they started killing Jewish. They started killing everybody which wasn't Aryan. So they did kill loads of other people as well. And if you said, wait a minute, I'm not really supporting the way they are doing it, you got killed as well. So
I know, but that's the way it happens in Muslim countries. Look, it's not fair that we went over and destroyed Germany to save people, but we're not going to do it in the Islamic world.
But do you know what I think you are missing there? If you look at Afghanistan, and you read articles, for example, about, written by military generals which spent some time over there, and they saw all this coming. They said, if we leave, it will all implode. It will all go wrong because we don't have enough support inside the society. So there's like a second hidden society. There are people working with us, but we can't really trust them. They are making out they want us there, but they don't really want us there. If we leave, it will all, go to shit. They saw that coming, but the politicians 20,000 miles away had their good ideas about this country, but they knew nothing. So they made decisions based on what they think what is right or wrong or might be good for that country without really understanding that country and not understanding the people.
Yeah, but we didn't understand Nazi Germany either. We didn't
Yeah.
understand. I mean,
I mean,
look, it doesn't matter if it's happening in Nazi Germany or in Russia or in the Arab world.
but I don't think Nazi Germany is a good example, because what Hitler did is he raised, right? He had his time. He manipulated the people, psychological, very interesting what happened there. But then that time was over. It wasn't the Islam world there is thousands of years old. That's a little bit different. Nazi Germany was 20 years, if that, and the Islam world is very, very old, and it's deep in the society. I mean, I cannot even point it out when I am a Christian, although I'm not religious and don't even believe in God, just because I'm born and raised in a Christian country. It's just how it is. Christianity is everywhere, and it's deep in the roots of my society, very deep. It's so hard to point it out, right? A Muslim could maybe point it out where it's visible, but to me, that is just my normality. I don't even think about that. And for them, it's the same way. Their moral system about what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, it's all based on Islam. So their full personality comes from there.
I know, but if you fight, you have to fight it. You can't just sit down and do nothing. You have to fight it. I mean, people, it takes time, it takes energy, but you have to do it. It's a plague upon the world.
Yeah, I'm not judgmental like that. I believe people in that country, if they want to change, they can force a change. But I don't want to force anything on a culture, on a society which I don't even understand, and to judge them, and having the perspective I have.
Well, we had a Cold War. We had a Cold War with communism because communism was treating people poorly.
Yeah, but there's still communism out there.
I know, but people don't want to live under it, and so we have to fight it.
What I would understand is if you say we have to fight and make sure it doesn't come here.
No, I believe in helping people that are not my countrymen. I believe in helping the world, not just people in my own country.
Because you think the way you live, or the way you think what would be best for humans, is obviously based on your own experiences,
No,
your own upbringing.
I don't want gay people being thrown off buildings.
Well, I don't want that.
I know, so then be anti-Islam.
But I don't want kids to starve to death.
I know, but it's easier. Look, it's easy to be anti-Islam. It's easy.
Yeah, but it's not about easy. It's about what you believe in. I mean, I was never a person who did something because it's just easier. It's easier to do this and that. No, if anything, seriously, if anything, I would help to keep the ocean clean, or to plant some trees, or to make sure that this earth doesn't get treated the way it gets treated, right? So that if you become an activist, I understand you must believe in it, your heart must be in it, and but to do something because it's easy, or it's so easy. Of course, I can sit here and now talk 2 hours about how bad Islam is, but what's the point?
Yeah. I actually have to go because I have to go to work.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm gonna leave you and Claire to keep talking.
No, Claire's not there. I jump off as well.
Okay, yeah, well, Claire's still there. But anyway, Claire, I have to go, so thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming, Vincent and Diana. I am here for you if you still want to talk to me.
Nah, it's okay. I jump off as well. I just wanted to say hello, but he didn't entertain me. That's okay. We didn't know each other. We have very different opinions, obviously. So, all good.
Okay, I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Vincent.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks,
Have a good
Dinah.
day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, Claire. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye. Well, I thought that was a very interesting conversation, which became a three-way conversation too. And, you see, even the people who oppose me are divided. Ha 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 ha. They are divided. And I know that those who hate Islam and the Quran cannot think of a better available guide to humanity than the Quran. And when you think of all the people who hate Islam and Muslims and know that they can't think of a better guide to humanity than the Quran, you think, well, you've won the arguments, basically. So the next step for me is to make sure that when people have lost the argument, they admit it and behave as if they know they have lost the argument.